Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Here's Why You're Wrong. We sort of just throw out these episodes whenever we feel like it, and today was supposed to be something, but we're going to save that and table it for another time. But instead, we've got the host of the MLB Insider Podcast, Andrew Page. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Watched an amazing game 163 that just ended a little bit ago, and looking forward to talking some playoff baseball. And I'm looking forward to not having to lead discussion. I'm looking forward to just sitting back and giving my reaction to stuff. I'm gonna let you guys just take the lead because this is y'all's show, not mine.
And speaking of the other guy, you know the guy up there, Brennan. He's here, whatever.
Well, I'm here. I make the show.
I,
There's
I,
no
I
show
disagree.
without me.
I mean, I disagree. I think
I mean,
Sanier.
we can swap you out for any other host.
I think Sanier and Minerva are the two who make the show at this point. Our guests have really been making the show lately. They've done a really good job. Shout out to them.
We've done 6 episodes. We've now had 3 guests.
Look, a 50% ratio. That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
I'll take that. And I think what's going to be fun is we can actually see Andrew come out here and get heated about a topic because he doesn't do that. Like, we see it in the Discord, but we don't get to ever hear him actually fully explain himself. And like Kamish says all the time, the punctuation that you can't exactly tell the tone of voice over Discord.
Yeah, I will say that probably the main reason for that on the Insider is because JR is so level-headed and calm about anything he talks about that I can't help but just be level-headed and calm with him. So I'm the kind of person that feeds off of the energy of who I'm talking to. So this will be really interesting to see how I feed off of you guys compared to how to feed off of JR.
Oh, there'll be some fun feeding. Before we get started here, though, I would like to do this. I know Kamish talked about it on we're recording this on Tuesday, May 31st. He talked about it yesterday on the May 30th stream. Prayers go out to all those affected in that tragic loss of a life, as well as all the lives that have been lost recently. We send our deepest prayers and condolences. I feel like, Kamish gives us the platform to do this, so the least we can do is send our thoughts and prayers out through that. But with that out of the way now, let's talk about playoff baseball. And Andrew, your line, it's an exciting race. It's an exciting finish. That's your favorite go-to line. And boy, was there exciting finish. We had a game 163. I'll ask you guys because I was sort of in and out of the stream today. But I want to ask both of you guys, what was your immediate reaction to that? Was that what you expected? Was that what you saw coming? And is that what you sort of expected to happen in
This is exactly what I expected. I think that the Angels really messed up their end of the season play by allowing the Rangers to stay this close, because the Angels are a head above the Rangers as an organization and as a team right now. And I think that we got the result we should have gotten.
Andrew?
I'm gonna broaden the scope from just the Angels and Rangers. I'm gonna talk about how the season ended as a whole. I don't think anyone expected that there was only one race that was decided by more than 2 games, and that was the AL East that was decided by 5 games. All of the other divisions was a 1 or 2 game lead at the end. I don't think anyone expected this 2 weeks ago, much less halfway or even at the beginning of the season. Because we had multiple times where teams had 9, 10, 11, 12 game leads in their division, and to have 5 out of the 6 divisions end within 2 games is really impressive.
I think a lot of that's owed to the Padres and Tigers collapses in the end of the season.
That's fair.
I don't know. I think part of it has to do with the collapses, but I think you have to give credit to both Minerva and Aaron from going basically virtually out and keeping their foot on the gas pedal. And hold on, I haven't got to do this yet, Brennan, and I'm really excited to do this. But you were wrong. You were flat out wrong. In our episode before the one that we recorded reactionary-wise, we talked about who was going to play the biggest spoiler in October with the last 2 weeks. You said the Cincinnati Reds. I said myself and the Atlanta Braves. Guess who was right?
Yeah, not really happy about the fact the Reds couldn't get a single win against the Cubs. I went 6-1 over my last 7, but so did the Cubs, maintaining the 1 game.
On that note, actually, I made a point to write this down. In September, the Cubs went 16-12, and in October they went 4-1. The Cardinals in September went 16-12, and in October went 4-1. They literally ran exactly the same. It was just the Cubs were a little bit ahead the entire time.
The difference was the two series we played against each other. Chicago went 4-2 against
It really
us.
was.
That was
And
the difference, because we took care of business against every other team except the team we were facing, and that's why we ended up in the wild card spot.
So this will take me greatly into what I want to talk about next, which is talk to me outside of obviously your own division races, because we don't want to, play too much of a homer. So I won't talk about the NL East. You won't talk about the AL East and the NL Central.
Fair.
What was the most exciting division race down to the wire?
Oof.
If you want me to, I'll kick it off. Or Brenden, you want to do it?
Yeah, I gotta say AL Central. Watching the miracle run for the Royals at the end here was exhilarating every single sim.
Is it just me, or I'm getting very much Royals are reminiscent of the United States hockey team going up against Russia and defeating Mother Russia, the miracle on ice? Can we call this the miracle at Kaufman? Like,
I'm perfectly fine calling it that. I mean, I'm perfectly fine calling Mark's Tigers evil.
I'm very okay with calling Mark's Tigers evil. Andrew, what's your take? Where do you stand?
While that was great, you wouldn't. Now, all credit to the Royals. They took advantage of the fact that the Detroit Tigers had such a huge drop-off. But if you're talking about the most exciting race, I'm going to go with the division with the two teams that had that tied for the second best record in baseball and tied for their division win, and that was LA and Texas. They both ended the season with 93 wins. They tied for the division on the last day of the season and had to play a 163 in order to figure out who was the division winner, and who ended up the unlucky team with the second best record in baseball having to play a one-game wild card game to figure out if they stay in the playoffs or not. And Boston is only one game back of them. They are no pushover. So Texas, unfortunately, is going to have a tough task at hand to beat Boston in a one-game series to move on to play the Baltimore Orioles, which is also not fun.
As much as I am where do I go with this? I feel like for me, even though we've already talked about it, I've got to give it over to the NL Central. Just the sheer fact that you just mentioned it. They had identical records through the month of September and October, and the fact that they were that close, it's insane. And you know what? Credit to both you, Andrew, and everyone involved, because I'll be honest, I was wrong. I called you guys the biggest pretenders in going into this, and you proved me wrong.
Put a chip on
you
my
showed
shoulder,
that you showed that your pitching staff and hitters can still do it. Now, when we get a little bit later, we're going to talk about our power rankings. We'll see exactly where they lie for all of us. But the fact of the matter is that you guys are no pushover, especially in a one-game playoff. And this one-game playoff, I think both of our one-game playoffs might be even more interesting than Game 163, but we'll get into that later. So I'm going to quickly give you the standings recap, and then we're going to go into how each of us did on our predictions in our relative podcast episode. So our recap is, in the AL East, the number one seed, you got the Baltimore Orioles. They're going to face the winner of the wild card matchup, which is the Texas Rangers hosting the Boston Red Sox. And then the other matchup you have are the Royals, I believe, are heading to LA, if I'm not mistaken. Then on the other side, you got the San Diego Padres hosting the winner of is St. Louis going to Arizona?
St. Louis is the home team.
St. Louis is the home team. So Arizona's going to head to St. Louis. The winner of that plays the Padres. And then on the other side of it, we've got the Cubs facing off against the Nationals, if I'm not mistaken, and
Correct.
The Nationals are the home team in that, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Chicago.
Cubs. That's what I thought. I couldn't remember.
And San Diego's only the one seed based off tiebreakers right now, because both them and Chicago have identical 92 and 70 records.
Yeah, it's weird the way OOTP's bracket works. Is sometimes it has the home team on top and sometimes on bottom. It's a little weird looking at the bracket from OOTP's perspective, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal. So those are the teams that made the playoffs. Let's go ahead and take a look at our prediction. And Andrew, I'm actually going to turn it over to you for this segment, just because you have a little more of the in-depth deep dive information. As many of you know, and we were talking about this before we recorded the podcast. Yeah. I'm the guy who does things on a whim. Andrew's the one who plans stuff out. I'm just the guy who's here to, facilitate a conversation and cause
I'm here for the ride.
That's just the difference between our two podcasts. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the style of podcast, which it makes for great content when you're producing content that is different. If we were both producing the same type of podcast, it'd be really boring to watch the same thing over and over again. So
That's like when you came to us after episode 1 and was like, I like the basis. Here's how we can fix this.
yeah, well, I was like, your conversation about Cardinals versus Cubs in your very first episode was exactly what I was expecting you to do, but then you just kind of turned into us on the other topics.
yeah, but
Anyway.
but don't worry, there will be more arguing coming up
Yeah.
with some of our later segments
This is
because
true.
we already had some heated conversations before we even started recording about some stuff.
That's true. All right,
That's what
so
we normally do.
predict. All right, so I'm calling the segment the prediction check. So essentially, what we did was we took both of the podcast made predictions as to sometime in the September simulation timeframe where we predicted where we thought the playoff race would end up once it was all said and done. So I'm going to go in order for who got the least amount right to who got the most amount right, and I have a tiebreaker because there was a tie for last place. Me and JR tied for last. We each got 4 correct. I got Baltimore correct. I got the Angels correct. I got the Nationals correct, and I got Boston getting a wild card correct. And then JR, I got to go back to his list because he sent that over to me. He got Baltimore correct. He got wild card Boston, NL East with Washington correct, and he got San Diego wild card correct. But I'm going to give myself the tiebreaker because I got all of the NL teams correct. I just had them in the wrong place. I had the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks winning their divisions, but they both ended up as wild cards where I had San Diego and Chicago.
Fair.
So, and then between you two both did better than us. Brenden got 5 and Aiden got 6.
Yeah.
So Brenden got his team, Baltimore, correct. He got
Everyone got Baltimore right. We're the
Everyone.
Everyone.
We were
well,
the ones shooing.
there were actually 2 teams where everyone got them right. It was Baltimore and LA, and that game came down to a tiebreaker. We all said
Look,
LA would take the division, but it came down to a game 163 to decide that.
I'm just saying Baltimore was basically like the free space on the bingo board. You can
Fair.
just, punch it. Well,
But I will say,
you
I'll-
look at hold on, you look
Go
at their
ahead.
teams, and we'll talk about this during the power rankings. But you look at the teams in the races. Like, yes, Detroit was ahead, but you saw obvious flaws in their team. And Brenden, I'm going to pump your ego a little bit, so don't get too ahead of yourself here. You saw obvious flaws with San Diego. You look through the entire Baltimore roster. It's really hard to find a flaw outside of the bullpen, which had been a little shaky at points.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean,
It was a pretty easy show.
Went from 11th to 6th in the last 2 months of the season.
That's still top half of the AL. So
So
it's nothing
yeah.
to sneeze at, but definitely not top tier. All right. So anyway, Brenden got Baltimore, LA correct. You got Boston correct for the wild card, and then you got San Diego and Arizona for the National League side. And
I
then
really thought Tampa was going to take one of those wild card spots.
I had Tampa as well.
So did I.
But then you also had Philadelphia winning the NL East, and they ended up in 3rd.
Hold on, Brenden, what's the word we use to describe Philadelphia?
Aggressive mediocrity, and they just continued to live up to it.
I would just like to ask, that might be one of the first quotes we need on a t-shirt. Aggressive mediocrity.
And a Phillies logo.
Yeah, just a Phillies logo.
Yep.
No, we don't even put a Phillies logo because we don't want to get in trouble with MLB. We just get aggressive mediocrity in their
Their
white
font.
with just Kamish's logo in the middle.
Aggressive mediocrity comes from 2 places. It comes from the Phillies' refusal to do anything above average, but it also comes from the GM of the Phillies, Witt, using Blake Bortles as his profile picture.
This is true.
That's fantastic. All
I'm
right.
sorry.
No,
I was
you're
not
you're
prepared
absolutely
for
right.
that.
But then with Aiden, who got 6 correct, he got Baltimore, Angels, Red Sox from the AL, and then he got Cubs, Padres, Cardinals from the NL. You had the Nats in there, but you put them as a wildcard team. You had the Mets winning the NL East.
I was close.
Yeah.
I wasn't too far off. And here's
He's made a really good run of it.
look,
Yeah.
hats off to Denbrew, man. I mean, even with the injuries he faced, like with the last 2 weeks of the season, the fact that he was still able to put together that run that he did, if we were giving out GM of the year for someone who didn't make the playoffs, Denbrew gets my vote. I know we don't do that. Like, I know that's not an award, but if we were giving an award for GM of the year who didn't make the playoffs, I think Denbrew is one that has to get some
The
heavy
aggressively
examples
mediocre GM.
I think there's a couple examples of teams that carried their GM, and I don't, and not as a disparagement to the GMs. There's just some teams that were too good to fail, and I think there are definitely some examples of GMs who elevated their teams, and Denbrew is absolutely an example of a GM who elevated his team this year.
That's fair.
No, you know what?
I'll call
I'll call someone out. The team that let down, I think the biggest letdown this year belongs in Houston. I mean, you had that star-studded of a roster.
What about Pittsburgh?
I can't count Pittsburgh because Cody just has a bunch of creative players.
Pittsburgh on our last podcast for biggest disappointment, so now he's got to find a different biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I can't give the same one twice in a row, and I'm sorry. I can't. I mean, here's the thing: CCPs are so random that I can't say what we expected from them, especially when all of them belong to Cody, and it's like the Brady Bunch. It's all of his children, just
I mean, to be fair though. Where the NL Central ended up with the Cubs, Cardinals 1 and 2, I expected the Pirates to be where the Cubs are. I actually honestly expected them to be flipped in the standings. So
yeah,
I don't know, and I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't know what to expect from the Brewers coming into the season. I didn't know enough about them. Hats off to the Brew Crew.
The Brewers.
Okay, but hats off to the Brew Crew for being in that race as long as they were.
If you go back to my preseason predictions, I had the Brewers pretty much in the race, like finishing just outside the playoffs, but in the race the whole year.
I mean, to be fair, they vastly outplayed where they should have been, because if you look at their expected record based on their
expected, hold on. I'm sorry, Andrew, but expected record is the biggest bunch of BS. We see that the Rays are predicted every year for 76, 82 wins, and every year in real life MLB, they're always overperforming. Expected wins.
I'm not talking about that expected record. I'm talking about the record based on their actual performance. I'm talking about the record that is based.
Sorry, you said expected record, and I just got a little defensive there for a second.
We're good. But if you look at what they were expected to do so they finished above 500 at 83 and 79 with a minus 40 run differential.
Yeah, it's that fun differential right there.
Yeah.
They don't need run differential. They need fun differential.
That's true. And I think also the biggest thing for me that I noticed with like the Brewers is there are some teams in eMLB who just by sheer nature of busyness, by anything like that, they're just not as vocal in eMLB itself. And the Brewers are one of those teams that I just haven't really noticed them in anything like that. And you look at their team, there's not necessarily that superstar outside of maybe Christian Yelich, who's still around there, but he's declined. I mean,
Arenado.
But here's the thing. But here's the thing. In my opinion, you don't hear a lot about those guys even on Kamish's stream, even when I'm going through and looking at
I would agree with that. The Brewers
he's talking about all the time.
But here's my portion on it. We don't hear anything from it. I just don't see anything from the Brewers. And in my opinion, no one saw them doing this. No one saw them being in a dogfight till the end. That's just the point I'm trying to make.
I would say that they're a team we do hear less from. We definitely hear a lot more from the Royals, who are on Game of the Night a lot. The Angels, the Orioles, because we're on Game of the Night a lot. Teams that are on Game of the Night more frequently tend to get a little bit more press coverage because we're watching them.
Teams, yeah.
But let's talk about guys like even guys who made the playoffs. The Red Sox. You don't hear much about them. Outside of just what you see playing. They've got some great players, but we don't hear much about them. But you talk about other teams too. You talk about guys like the Yankees. You talk about guys like the Brewers. You talk about teams, for example, the Dodgers are semi-vocal. The Giants are semi-vocal. The Rockies, even though he's an international GM, we hear a little bit from him. I think the NL East is pretty vocal. The AL Central has just been a revolving door of GMs that it's been hard to hear a lot from over there. I mean, you just sometimes hear more from some guys and some from not. And it's, in my opinion, I think the Brewers deserve a lot more credit than what people are giving them credit for. And the fact of the matter is Jay Hill over there has done a great job.
Okay, I will give you that where they ended up with their record, I will give them credit for outperforming where they should have ended up. That's definitely true. But to your point about there are teams that we don't really hear about because they're not the games that are featured on Game of the Night. That's one of the main reasons why myself and JR started the Insider Podcast, was to tell the whole story of the whole league, because those streams most of the time only focus in on the 2 teams that are being played at the time. So we wanted to be able to tell the stories of the other teams. Like we wouldn't have heard near as much about the Red Sox if we weren't talking about them being near the top of our power rankings week after week.
Yeah.
The Brewers made the power rankings a couple times throughout the season, so we did talk about them for a little bit. We wouldn't have talked about those teams because there are GMs that are just unable to be on Game of the Night, and that's just fine. But they're still running their teams, and they're still here. They're still active. And we wanted to be able to start telling everyone's story, not just the teams that are able to play on Game of the Night.
Also, shout out to the Oakland A's. Prior to Danny Smith's takeover, they were on the power rankings, I believe, the first 2 episodes of the Insider Podcast and fell off. Or at least the first one. I know they were on at least the first one.
Were they on the power rankings? Hold on.
Yes, they were on the power rankings in episode 1.
I know we talked about the most disappointing team.
No, because I believe in episode 1 of the Insider Podcast, I think it was JR put them as their 10 team, because it was between them and Milwaukee, and I think one of you guys put Milwaukee and one of you guys put Oakland.
It's because the A's swept the Angels in the first game of the year.
Yes.
It's going to be a really good time for Andrew to go back and do his editing skills in between now and when this episode airs, and put the actual rank on there.
Oh yeah, I could do that actually. I could.
That'd be interesting.
Hey, a little bit of breaking news that just came out of the GM News tab on our Discord server. The Royals team doctor has determined that Nathan Eovaldi will not be healthy for the DS, and his timetable to return from his injury is unknown.
What team was that?
The Royals.
Because I keep like I know that's not Boston, because he's not in Boston anymore.
That's gonna really hurt the Royals rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
They just can't get lucky with these injuries that they've had all year.
Essentially, now they got to lean on Hendricks more than they really would have wanted to.
Probably.
So why don't we go ahead? I think this is a good segue to talk about our power rankings for the postseason.
Yeah, you're taking one of our segments.
Look, even though it's not a full crossover episode, we got to steal a little bit from you.
But this time we're not just discussing where we put on the power rankings. We're going to tell us why we're wrong on where we put these power rankings.
Oh yeah. And by the way, we would like to mention the fact that this was supposed to be a full-on crossover episode. Yeah. Co-host of the Insider Podcast, JR, is currently unavailable, a little under the weather, so hopefully he feels better. But he did send in his power rankings, so this is going to be a 4-way showdown.
I will represent both myself and JR in this, so we will.
Which is kind of disappointing.
Compare his to mine to see if he matched mine at all.
Kind of disappointing because Aiden said that we're gonna steal some elements. I said we're gonna steal the best elements. But truthfully, if we were stealing the best elements, we would have JR here.
I mean, this is very true. I'm just gonna ignore you
guys. All right.
Hey. All right. So let's just start it out. Let's go with number 10. Andrew, why don't you kick us off with your number 10?
You want mine first or JR's first?
I said you.
Okay.
I want you first.
Well, I'm kicking it off, but I'm speaking for 2 people. You got to be more specific.
Fair. I did say, Andrew, let's kick it off with your number 10.
Okay.
We'll go Andrew, and then Andrew will give JR's.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So my number 10, I have Kansas City. No discredit to what they did down the stretch. What they did was amazing. But as I mentioned earlier, in order for them to make the playoffs, not only did they have to play really well, Detroit had to have that massive fall off in order for them to make the playoffs. And now this kind of solidifies my number 10 with you mentioning I didn't even know about the injury to Eovaldi before I wrote my power rankings. So that just makes it an even tougher road for Kansas City. And then they're going up against the defending World Series champion LA Angels in the first round. And it's definitely going to be an uphill battle for them. Definitely excited to see what they do in these playoffs, but I think they're going to be a scary team next year as well when they start getting some of their players back. But I've got Kansas City at number 10. And then
I can't justify putting 46 and 27 after the All-Star break last. I agree. They shouldn't be a top half team, but last 46 and 27.
Yes, they are one of the hotter teams in baseball, but I believe talent for talent, when you match them up against the other teams, they are lacking in that area.
So hold on, Brenden. Before we get to you, where did JR? Who did he have as his number 10?
His number 10, and I can't give a reason for it because I don't know his reasoning. He just gave me the list. He has the Washington Nationals at number 10.
Brenden?
Number 10, Boston.
What?
A what?
Boston started hot. They had a good April, they had a good June, and they played pretty much 500 ball since then. Boston's record after the All-Star break, 39-36.
Hold on,
They
Brendan.
are
Hold
one,
on,
they are one
Andrew.
of two
Hold on.
teams
Hold on.
that
Hold
was
on.
just
Hold on.
3 games above 500 in the postseason after that point in time.
Andrew, something you have to learn about Brendan is since we started this podcast, his favorite stat is after the All-Star break. This is his favorite only go-to stat.
Yeah, because it tells you how the team is playing recently.
Okay, you
This
want
team
recently? They're 4-1 in
underperforming.
October.
Sorry?
They're 4-1 in October. There's recently for
Right,
you.
you want recently? Just got swept by the best team in the league.
Okay, so that puts them at number 10.
Yeah, that put out of the current playoff teams, absolutely. I don't think they have. I think that they are coming into the playoffs in the weakest position of any of the other playoff teams.
Look,
This is a good roster. This is a really good offense, but
Yeah.
this is a pitching staff that has been their Achilles heel all season, and it will doom them.
look, I'm gonna sit here and I don't like doing this, but I'm gonna agree with you, Andrew. I gotta put the Royals down at the bottom number of this list.
There we go.
They're just number for number right now. They don't have, I think, what it takes. I think the fact that they're gonna have to go up against the defending world champions. I'm worried about their pitching. I'm also worried if their offense can continue to perform because they're overperforming probably what they should be at this current moment, not what they're projected to be in the next few years because they've got a lot of guys with good potential. I mean, a guy like Manuel Margot, who's outperforming definitely what I think anyone could have expected from him. But I also think the fact of the matter is that you just look at who they have to face, and also the fact of the matter is the only reason they're in the playoffs is because Detroit crapped the bet. So I think
it's not the only reason. You have to give them credit for the way they took advantage of Detroit.
Andrew, I've given credit on every episode of this podcast to Minerva in the Kansas City Royals.
I mean,
But
Parker, Vaughn, Valera, Landry, and Halpin are all just solid hitters. Plus Bernazard, they got solid production out of a lot of.
I still think that they're the bottom team currently. They can prove me wrong, and that's what this is for. But currently, for me, I don't see much from them, even with what they did.
I can't put them high, but last feels disrespectful.
All right, let's move on to number 9. Brendan, start us off with your number.
I'm going to go ahead and put Washington there. And I'm going to put, I have much the same philosophy with putting Washington at number 9 here as I do with putting Boston number 10. Their pitching staff will be their Achilles heel. Unlike Boston, their rotation is solid. But they, for the second year in a row, have one of the worst bullpens in the league, and it has hurt them this year more than it hurt them last year. And I think it's going to really be a problem for them in the postseason.
Andrew, you want to give you and JR's?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give mine first because I agree with Brenden. I have Washington at number 9. They are literally the Cardinals' polar opposite. Top team in the league in the NL in offense, but one of the worst in pitching, whereas the Cardinals are one of the best in pitching and one of the worst on offense. Now, to Brendan's point, that I would say their starting staff, led by Joe Diggs, is better than Boston's. But when it comes to how you perform in the playoffs, I don't believe offense is going to carry you the furthest. I believe deep pitching staffs are what's going to carry you, and I think the bullpen is going to blow leads for the Nationals. And
it did in last year's World Series.
Yeah, and they're kind of in the same situation again. So that's why I've got Washington at number 9.
And while we're on the topic of Washington, I want to bring in one thing. I understand with the way everyone has talked about Juan Soto this year, you'd assume he was dead. He's having an amazing season by literally any other player's standards. It's just not great by his own.
I wouldn't call it amazing, but well above average for sure.
I mean, amazing may be a bit
okay.
of an exaggeration, but
yes, because when you talk about amazing, you're going to talk about 3 other people on the Nationals alone first before you talk about Soto. You're going to talk about Mark Diggs, you're going to talk about Hunter Bishop, and you're going to talk about Jose Anthony.
Agreed.
All 3 of them you're going to talk about before Juan Soto. And that just shows how good their offense is.
An 895 OPS and 30 home runs is nothing to sneeze at. It's not like he's gone.
Great season, not amazing. If we're talking amazing, we're talking Mark Diggs, we're talking Jose Anthony, we're talking Fernando Tatis with 60 home runs.
I'm gonna butt in here real quick and just say I love the fact that there are 2 of us throwing shots at Brendan and it's not just me anymore. This is really making me smile.
When I find the opportunity, I'll throw shots at you.
Oh, don't worry, you'll have the opportunity here in a little bit.
I'm sure
he'll
wherever
have
you rank
well,
my
he won't have the
Cardinals.
opportunity because we're
We'll
not going to
see.
be talking about the Braves tonight.
All right. Well, speaking of the Cardinals, that's actually who JR has at number 9. Are my Cardinals?
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Man,
And
I really wish JR was here.
He hasn't. I really wish he was here to say why. But you notice he hasn't even listed Kansas City yet.
Yeah, interesting.
He had Washington 10, St. Louis 9.
Andrew, I think you're looking at my power rankings that are in my head because I also have the Nationals 9.
Well, I mean,
think
everyone except for JR had the Nationals at 9 here.
Yeah, so I think
JR has a hot take.
I think you guys are correct in what you all are saying here with the fact of their pitching staff and everything like that. The one thing that puts them above the Royals is the fact that they have a healthy starting rotation.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, let's go ahead and do the number 8 team. I guess I'll kick this one off because I'm the only one who hasn't started yet. At the number 8 team here, I have got, drum roll please, the Boston Red Sox. I have the Boston Red Sox sitting here at 8. I think Brenden brings up a lot of really good points with what he says. I think the biggest thing for me is I don't think they have a deep enough pitching staff to do anything in this. And I also think in a one-game playoff against Texas, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't disagree with
Andrew, you want to go? Yeah. Actually, Brenden, why don't you go?
Number 8 spot, Kansas City. I told you I couldn't put them high, but I feel like the 8 spot really fits well because I think really highly about every team in my top 7, but these bottom 3 teams are the ones that you have to put them in. They're in the playoffs, but I don't want to give them too much consideration. The Royals, in my mind, are the best of those bottom teams.
Fair enough.
All
Andrew, what do you got?
So JR and I actually match on this one. For number 8, we both have listed the Arizona Diamondbacks. So with Arizona, it's this. I don't know which one was a bigger surprise. I'd still say Kansas City was a bigger surprise to making the playoffs, but Arizona's right there with them, just based on the way they were playing at the beginning half of the season. But then we'll bring up Brendan's favorite stats of after the All-Star break. They just exploded.
Oh, we will.
However, they did not. They had a prime opportunity to take the division. JR and I both thought they would take the division because they played San Diego 6 times within the last couple weeks of the season, and they did not take advantage of those games. And I think they went like 2-4 in those games, if I remember correctly.
They either went 2-4 or 3-3.
Yeah, 2-4. San Diego won 4 out of the 6, and if that had been flipped, Arizona would have won the division. So for that fact that they couldn't take advantage of the opportunity that was given to them, I do have them at number 8, and JR has them at number 8 as well. Again, I can't speak to his reasoning, but I have to think it'd be very similar. But when
I would guess it's almost the same. Yeah,
I mean, when you look at their stats, they do have a really good pitching staff that led the way, and they definitely have they have an offense that's kind of on the cusp of being top tier, just not quite over the edge, but they did have some great pitching down the stretch that led them to this wild card spot.
Fair enough. Andrew, let's hop right back to you for, I believe we're at number 7 now.
Number 7, and I'm going to do JR's first because his technically hasn't gone first. JR's got Boston at number 7. They got Boston at number 7. And actually, you know what? I'm going to save my points about Boston for when I put them in my power rankings, because I actually have at number 7, I've got my St. Louis Cardinals at number 7. So, as I've mentioned before, as people are probably sick of me talking about, the Cardinals have one of the best pitching staffs in the league. I would say, and I'll let you guys argue this point if you think you can argue it, the Cardinals have the best bullpen amongst the playoff teams. You could potentially make an argument for the LA Angels, but
Texas.
All right, but find me a bullpen that has Zapuki, Loaisiga, Knebel, and Leclerc. Only one, the highest ERA out of those 4 is Loaisiga at 2.2. All the other 3 have below a 2 ERA.
You mean Johnny Lasagna?
Johnny Lasagna. I still think those 4 in the back end of the bullpen is the best bullpen in baseball. I know I'm biased because I'm the Cardinals GM, and that was my goal, was to build one of the best bullpens, because I saw 3 players kind of leading my bullpen. I need to add a 4th piece. That's why I went out and got Knebel. So And I made the point before. The reason why I've got St. Louis over teams like Arizona and Washington is I believe pitching can take you further in the playoffs than hitting can. Now that kind of disturbs my point when I haven't mentioned Boston yet in my power rankings. I do have them ranked higher than St. Louis. I just think Boston overall performed better. Obviously, they ended up with a better record, so maybe they can overcome some of those pitching woes. But I just think that the Cardinals, if they can just get a little bit more out of their offense, can make a deep run, just carried by their pitching.
I think when you're talking about teams finishing within a couple games of each other, you can kind of throw record out the window a little
That's
bit.
fair.
When it comes to like saying which team is definitely better, I would agree with that. I would agree with your point that maybe you can throw it a little bit out for Boston because they had a pretty complete season most of the year. But I feel like this is a little bit too low for St. Louis, and I'm kind of disappointed you put your own team this low.
I was trying to be realistic.
That's fair. Be humble.
Oh, I will say, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might have the worst offense among the playoff teams.
You know what? Are we going based on runs scored?
Just looking at the generic, all the stats across the board. The only thing that we had in the top 5 in the NL was home runs. We were actually second in the NL in home runs. We were third in batting WAR, but I kind of throw that out the window because most of that is attributed to our defense, which is top tier. OPS, we were 5th because of our second place in home runs. But we don't get on base very well, and so we don't score runs as a result. We have a lot of solo home runs.
That's fair.
So, and I just want to point out, Acuna, thank you, Aiden, for Acuna. Acuna with the Cardinals hit 390 with a 457 on base percentage, a 657 slugging percentage for an OPS of 1.114 and a 3.9 WAR.
I'm honestly gonna sit here and say this, and I said this to Sadier when we had him on. I think every team is happy with who they got in the trade.
I believe so.
On the point from earlier, runs scored among the National League playoff teams: Washington 1, San Diego 2, Chicago 3, Arizona 5th, Cardinals 9th.
Yeah, I told you. Lowest scoring, like probably the worst offense in the playoffs, not just NL. And so that's why we need our pitching to carry us. And I built this team for pitching this year. That was my goal in the offseason. Although one of them didn't turn out so well with Stever. But he ended up coming in and helped started a game where we won one of the last 7 games. So hopefully that means he's on the rebound a little bit. But if our offense doesn't show up, there's only so much pitching can do.
So I'll go next here. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Arizona Diamondbacks squad. Aaron did a great job with her squad this year. However, I don't think they just have enough. I think they just, they don't have an offense really that excites me. And I think, in my opinion, that they're the new definition of aggressive mediocrity when it comes to the playoff teams.
I mean, that maybe, I get that argument, but they have a pitching staff that's really good. It's not the best pitching staff.
Look, that's why they're 7. That's why they're not 9 in my power. That's why they're ahead of Boston. But the fact of the matter is yes, while pitching wins championships, if you score 0 runs, you're going to have a hard time winning a championship.
It's a good line.
Yeah. Brenden,
and that's why I've got him 7.
I have not.
I went before him.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Not gone number 7 yet. I got San Diego.
Wow. You're the one throwing. Excuse my pun. You're the one throwing all the curveballs tonight.
I mean, that's a pretty good pun, but I think San Diego came into the postseason in such a rut that it really scares me compared to the rest of the field. I mentioned that there were two. When I was talking about Boston earlier, I mentioned that there were. Again, I'm gonna use my favorite number, my favorite stat. There were only 2 of the postseason teams that were that were barely above 500 second half of the year, and San Diego is one of them. They were 38 and 35 the second half of the year. Like, they have been cold, and it was their cold streak that allowed Arizona to take advantage of it. Now that they did beat Arizona in 2 crucial series late in the year, but they're not just facing Arizona in the postseason; they're facing the rest of the National League.
Jeez,
good luck to Steve. But
they could face Arizona if they beat the Cardinals in the wild card.
They very well could.
because they have
All
the
right.
the number 1 seed.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on to now number 6. Andrew, why don't you kick us off with yours?
Yeah, so I've got this is where I'm going to talk about Boston at number 6. So we talked before about how Washington had like the top ranked offense in the National League, like across all categories. But not only did Boston, the offense on the American League side was so great that Boston finished second in a bunch of categories, but it was still better than what Washington did. Boston has the Nationals beat in runs scored, batting average, on base percentage. They are only 2 points off in OPS, and weighted OBA. They're just a little bit off there, but they scored 43 more runs than the Nationals did over the course of the season. So to the point where these two teams are both offenses carrying them, Boston's offense is better than Washington's offense, which is why I have them ranked higher. And I think that offense is doing a better job of offsetting their mediocre pitching than what the Cardinals pitching would offset their mediocre hitting. And so that's why I have Boston 1 up of the Cardinals.
And I'll say this: there's a very obvious and public example of what happens when an all offense team and an all offense no pitching team runs up against a team who does both well, and that's the game. And that's the series that we played against them earlier in September, and that was live. That was the live game. Boston is a team that's poised to get creamed in the postseason.
Yeah, so
I
honestly,
say that's a good take.
Honestly, and let's see, I'm trying to see where I rank. I don't where I have them ranked is technically below the other wildcard team, so I don't expect them to make it far.
Hold on. Before you tell us where you expect them, hold on to that.
I will.
We've got another segment to talk about where you expect them to be.
I'm just saying, based on where I put them in the power rankings, you would expect me to not have them go very far.
Ooh, that's a little interesting setup.
But, but I still think they have a better chance. Like, if you had Boston go up against Kansas City, I believe Boston would win that series. That's kind of how I viewed the power rankings. Like, if they matched up with the teams below them, I would expect them to beat them in a full series. But the fact of the matter is, Boston's in the wildcard game. They got one chance, and it's against Texas, who I haven't mentioned in my power rankings yet. So you got to take that.
Hold on. I think this gives us a good segue for a second, just real quick, if you will, excuse me. Actually, I believe today it was moved to a vote in our Discord, brought to us by Andrew Pays, talking about expanding to a 3-game wild card series, which I don't want to talk about it yet because I want to talk about it when it comes to our last segment we're going to talk about with the news that came out today, because I feel like the two of them almost go hand in hand together.
They do a little bit, yeah.
The voting, by the way, is tied 11-11.
I believe someone else in this call was the person that seconded and brought it to a vote.
I did. I did indeed.
I think I put 100% underneath it, and then you said I second it.
Yeah, you both actually. Yeah, you both agreed with it.
Because technically, according to how it works, technically yours was the motion to vote, and I was the second tier motion to vote with your 100%. So we were both your motion people. All right, so let's talk about. Hold on, JRs. We need to go to next for the number 16.
So number 6, this is where they have the Kansas City Royals. He has them all the way up at number 6.
You see, this is
why Arizona, St. Louis, and Washington.
This is why I'd love to have JR here. I know he's feeling under the weather, but Andrew, we might have to have you do a little investigative work. Ask him real quick for like a sentence or something that you can flash on the screen when we talk about each team.
Quote, why did you have him here? And then just put it up there.
There you go. All right.
We'll see.
Number 6.
I don't know if I'll have enough time because I got to get this episode out before the wildcard game starts tomorrow.
True. Brenden, who you got at 6?
I got Chicago.
You are a...
Well, I'm actually okay with this.
I do not trust Chicago in the postseason right now. Don't get me wrong. What Jake has done is awesome in building a roster. He's been aggressive. He's pursued a lot of really good players. He had an obvious draft choice fall right into his lap, and that has boosted his team amazingly. when I look at the available playoff teams that I have not listed on my power rankings, they're the team I trust the least. They're the team that I think is in the
You are
worst
the biggest
position.
Chicago Cubs hater in the world, Brennan.
Which
I
is saying
actually
something
am.
because
I
I'm the
cannot stand
Cardinals.
Cubs in real life, but that has nothing to do with this.
Which is funny because I'm the Cardinals GM and a Cardinals fan in real life, and you're calling him a bigger hater of the Cubs than me.
At least in eMLB. Like
I'm not
this
a
man.
hater. I said that Jake's put together a really good roster, and this is a
Hold
great.
on. You have said that they are not going to do crap since we started this podcast.
I maintain that.
And you
They're
have
in
been
the
proven
playoffs.
wrong time and time again.
And you know what? Something that's true is I'm very rarely wrong forever, unless it's Philadelphia, in which case I'm very much wrong on that. But we'll go ahead and move past that.
So basically, he's gonna keep maintaining that he's right until the Cubs win the World Series, and then he'll say he's
Correct.
wrong.
Jeez. All right, I'll go with my number 6 team. I'm going to go with the St. Louis Cardinals here. Andrew, like I mentioned earlier, I give you more credit than I did in the beginning. However, I just don't, like you mentioned, you got a great bullpen. Your offense has been clicking on all cylinders.
Our offense is
well,
not.
Hold on, not your offense. Hold on, pardon me. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been clicking on all cylinders.
There we go.
Allow me to rephrase.
Offense.
That's fair.
Exactly. So the offense.
Well, actually, no. Rendon has been amazing in the month of September as well.
Fair. So you've got a few pieces there. I think that's my biggest worry in your head is I don't know if you can't rely on 2 players in the postseason, and I also don't know that your pitching staff, when it comes to the starting rotation, can get you to those back-end bullpen guys, and you got to go into a 1-game playoff, which you will semi be able to manage and semi not, depending on how Kamish does it, which I think may help you but may also hurt you because you can't make any dumb decisions as a manager, not saying you ever have. But it prevents the ability to do so.
I will go ahead and point out one dumb decision I did make while on Game of the Night. This is actually before both of y'all were GMs. I was actually playing the Cubs on a Game of the Night. I had a runner on third, which would have been the tying run, and I tried a suicide squeeze, and they cut down my runner at the plate.
So this may avoid some of
your
these.
best Mike Matheny impression.
Exactly. Actually,
So
that would
this
have been more
may-
Tony La Russa than Matheny.
Fair. So this may, this may help that or hurt that. I just think, you're a middle of the pack team based on these playoff teams, but
I mean,
you
I'll
could
take
surprise some people. You could surprise some people, and you know what, Andrew? I give you kudos for what you've done this season.
I appreciate that, especially after you called me the biggest pretender in the playoffs.
On the subject of middle of the pack, I definitely have bottom 3, middle 3, top 4, and I will not consider the Cardinals a middle of the pack team.
Ooh, okay. It just makes me feel better that both of y'all have the Cardinals ranked higher than I have them.
I had to give you a little more credit.
Now,
and I honestly think the bottom teams below it are just a little bit tougher.
Now JR has me at 9, so I don't know what he's thinking, but
Well,
you know what?
He's being probably more honest than we are.
I also think that part of it too is definitely some of the NL Central hate. Same reason I have Washington so low, the NL East hate.
I mean,
I'll
but you didn't have them as low as JR did. JR had Washington number 10.
True, I had Washington at 9, so fair enough.
But it's because JR put Kansas City at 6. He's got some real love for the Kansas City team over there.
And you know what? We love Minerva on this episode.
Absolutely.
So now I believe we move into our top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so, yeah.
All right. So, Brennan, kick us off with your number 5 team.
Got Texas. Texas coming off of a loss in their game 163. They get to go face Boston, which is a game I expect them to win. That
Brennan, I know I'm going to mention this later.
Before you say anything, I'm just going to follow that up with, since it's the same thing, JR has Texas at number 5 as well.
Oh, okay.
Brennan, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna hop in here for.
Before you hop in, let me give my 1 point. Pitching staff, amazing. This team has 3 hitters that are above average hitters. That's it.
Andrew, this is no offense to you, but I see absolutely zero world where you can rank right now the St. Louis Cardinals above the Texas Rangers. I see zero world where you can sit here and tell me that.
All right. Gosh, I hate myself right now. 39 and 33 post All-Star break.
You mother.
Cardinals had a wait. What were the Cardinals post?
Cardinals are 41-33.
Yeah, better.
So
And that was-
hold on. So hold on.
Tiebreaker.
So what we're noticing is me and Andrew are doing these based on realism. JR is doing whatever he wants, and Brendan's just doing his based on post All-Star break. Okay,
Which is
glad we
not-
all
it's still
understand
Definitely a
realism.
tiebreaker for me. It's
It's
definitely a tiebreaker.
selective realism is what Brenden is doing.
He's doing something, and it's wrong. Okay, though.
All I'm saying.
Anyway,
Hey,
so he has
as they
Texas.
say,
He and JR both have Texas at number 5. Let's.
look, you know what? I don't hate the Texas at 5. They're not at 5 in mine, but I think the fact that you have them below the Cardinals is a little shocking to me. But I'll go with my number 5. My number 5 is the San Diego Padres. I think for me, the Padres, you know, they go down and down, and the fact that they're up this high is helped by the fact that they have a guy who's probably going to win the NL MVP by the name of Fernando Tatis Jr.
I think if anyone votes for anybody else besides him, and they're obviously homering because there's no good case for anybody but him.
Antonio Alvarez for NL MVP. I'm sorry, I had to make it. I had to try there for you.
So
For 10
I will
seconds.
point out that Tatis was just a batting average away from winning the Triple Crown. He had
That hurts.
he had a 326 average. The league leader was Walker Smith from Colorado with a 338.
Oh,
Hold on, he doesn't count. Colorado's inflated. Doesn't count.
Okay, Jose Anthony 331.
Dang it.
Michael
he doesn't
Sean
count- he
Kane
doesn't count, he
330.
plays for Washington.
Michael Sean Kane 330.
San Francisco's a fake team. It's okay.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. All right, it
We'll try
doesn't.
to get-
The data person in me is hating this because I'm giving you all the stats and you're just choosing to ignore it.
Stats don't matter. Stats are. Stats
Okay,
don't
fine.
matter.
Post
Stats
All-Star
just
break
mean
stats don't
the
matter
players
then.
are.
Hold on, Brennan. Why should it matter if
I
he
don't,
wins?
I
the
don't
tri-
believe that. I'm
Hold
just
on.
being.
Hold on, Brennan. Why should the Triple Crown matter? Didn't you say in our last episode batting average doesn't matter?
It doesn't. It absolutely doesn't.
Should we switch it to on-base percentage leader?
Really, honestly, I think we should. I think that's.
All right,
I think
well,
that's.
I think
Tatis
OPS.
Then Tatis is 5th.
I think OPS.
No,
I would
OPS
put
is not a good stat because you cannot equate on-base percentage with slugging percentage. They're
You know-
they're evaluated on 2 different scales. Slugging you can have from 0 to 4,000. On base only 0 to 1,000.
I used to really not like OPS as a player evaluator, but something that I've noticed, and at least in Out of the Park, I don't know if this is true in real life baseball because I haven't really taken a look at it, although I assume it is. OPS has a near perfect correlation with predicting a team's runs scored.
All right. As much as I love having this conversation about stats, I do want to rein us in because all of us have to work in the morning. I would like to rein us in a bit here. All right. So, Andrew, we haven't gotten your number 5.
Yeah, so my number 5 are the Chicago Cubs. Kind of the same reasoning that we've talked about before. I wouldn't call them aggressive mediocrity. I would say aggressive just above mediocrity because they're pretty much above average in any stat you can think of, but they're not top of the league in anything.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly. But that's what got them to the playoffs is the fact that you can't really find a huge weakness in their game. Like with the Cardinals, our weakness is hitting. With the Red Sox and Nationals, their weakness is pitching. With Chicago, there's not like a true weakness. You can find a few holes, but they don't have that like glaring, oh my gosh, this is their worst part of their game. Absolutely. So that's why I've got them in number 5. I don't know if they have enough to get over the top, but because they're so solid all the way around, that's why they're not near the bottom.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our number 4. I'll kick this one off. I got the Texas Rangers number 4. I think they've got the best bullpen, if not the second best bullpen in the playoffs. Andrew, you guys are 1A, 1B in my opinion.
That's fair.
With the Texas Rangers. I also think I really like what they bring to the table in the offense, and I feel like the fact of the matter is they've been overperforming this year, yes, but until I see something that tells me they can't go on a streak, they can't do what we expect of them, I can't rank them any lower, and I think that the Rangers really stand a chance to make a potential run.
I think that not having, like I said, 3 above average hitters This is a team that has a very weak lineup that still manages to score runs because of how much they run. But if you face a solid pitching staff, I worry about this team being able to get on base and produce runs.
I
Then
worry
who do you?
about them facing a team with a lot of left-handed pitchers because they have a ton of left-handed hitters.
Then where do you, Brennan? Who do you have ranked it for?
I got St. Louis. St.
Wow.
Louis ends their climb up my power rankings as really I consider them. Like, I consider my top 4 my real contenders, my real teams I expect to do something in the postseason. And I think that St. Louis is one of the 2 teams in the National League that has a real chance at doing something. And I think it's because of that pitching staff.
No
So-
offense, I
so
see
you have
Brennan
more-
right now.
Go ahead.
I see Brennan right now as that guy from The Price is Right. The little minor guy going up the hill, just
Okay.
Brennan and the St. Louis Cardinals just riding together up that hill.
Yes.
So it
Very
sounds like
much.
you have more faith in my offense than I do.
Well, you know what? I have faith in your hitters finally managing to your team runs scored finally managing to reflect the quality of hitters you have in your team.
You mean they're going to score more than 2 runs a game?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, down the
They have
stretch.
to.
Let's see what we do the last 7 games where we won 6 out of 7. We scored 4 runs in a win, 6 runs in a win, 2 runs in a loss, and then the rest were wins 4, 5, 6, and 10.
Hey,
We scored 10 runs the last game of the season, the second game of a doubleheader.
you might have been helped
You
out
go
by a
to-
tired pitching staff.
If you go to the week before that, you have 2 11-run wins and a 16-run win. Although
Okay, those were in
admittedly-
Colorado.
admittedly in Colorado. So
The one of the 11s and the 16 were both in Colorado. I did.
Hold on. If we're going to talk about that, a Colorado 11 is like a St. Louis 6,
Which is still better than average for me.
still pretty good.
which is still better than average.
Yeah.
All right. So, did we get JR's number 4?
You haven't gotten mine or his.
Okay, let's do it.
So JR has the Cubs at number 4. So he's got more faith in the Cubs than any of us, I think.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you
listed
haven't talked
them
about
yet.
them. Okay. Oh, you're gonna jump on that Cubs bandwagon. All right.
Dang right I am.
And your apology has now been rejected.
I know. It's okay.
I have the Padres at number 4. Mostly, and I'm gonna ignore Brendan's argument of record past the All-Star break. I'm going based off of pure talent on the roster. And when you have a team led by the probable MVP in Fernando Tatis Jr., that's a great place to start. But not only that, Asher Kim with an over 300 batting average as well, and the Gold Glove defense that Asher brings to the table as well. They have Yuna Kim back from injury now. That gives them their stability in center field.
Oh, okay.
I think they're back from injury. Yeah, they came back at the end of the season, and then they still have some pretty decent pitching in the mix. They don't have like the top of the line pitching that you see coming out of Baltimore or St. Louis, but it's like just below that top tier. Like they were top 5 in a lot of different pitching. Well, no, sorry, I was looking at batting. They were like around the top 5 in pitching categories. So they have solid enough pitching that their offense can get them over the hump if their pitching can't completely lock it down. So I have them at number 4. Now, I will grant that they aren't the hottest team, but they did have to overcome a really hot Arizona team in order to maintain their division title, and I think that gives them a boost going into the playoffs.
And where does JR have at number 4?
I already mentioned it, the Cubs.
Oh, he did. Sorry. Wow. It's mind you, it's 11:54 Eastern time here.
Give yourself a monster, man.
Dude, energy drinks don't work for me with my ADHD.
Fair.
It's a little bit of a problem. All right, let's go ahead and move to number 3. Brennan, kick us off.
Arizona.
Wow.
I
your
think
rankings are all
Arizona
over the
right
place,
now
man.
is the.
Wow.
Now, Tom did
Wow.
point out a big flaw with Arizona, and that is their record versus teams that are over 500. I would argue that a lot of that is due to their performance early in the year where they were floundering. Now, Arizona's performance against San Diego, a little bit worrisome. But I think Arizona as a team is in the best position to come out of the National League right now.
All right.
Okay. Well, let me point this out just as a counter argument. You look at the last month of the season where they made this historical run, including how many games did they win before they lost? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They won 11 straight before they finally lost. Of those 11 games, 9 or 10 of them came against the last 3 teams in their division: San Francisco, Colorado, and LA.
And you know what? I'd say an 11-game winning streak is still an 11-game winning streak. A
Yes,
team
but
winning
it was
11
not
games in a
against
row is
it
still
was not
impressive.
against team above 500. Most
And
of
I
their
would still
wins
say that winning
in the
11
last
games in
stretch.
a row is still really impressive, no matter who you're playing them against. In baseball, you can reasonably be expected to just be barely over 500 and over most of the season. So winning 11 in a row is impressive.
Most of their wins in the second half of the season came from below 500 teams.
And I think Aaron's got a trick up her sleeve.
I'm not going to deny that Aaron's got. I'm sure she's worrying up some strategy in the wild card game against me. That would just be a disservice to who Aaron is as a GM. She's always got something up her sleeve. But I'm thinking in team performance wise, they haven't proved that they're able to win enough against the top teams to go far in the playoffs, which is why I had them down at number 8 on my rankings.
That's why I had them down low. I don't know if they can do it against the big teams, and until they show me that they can, the National League, no offense to anyone in either league because both leagues are tough, I just think the National League's a little tougher.
I think the National League definitely has more parity.
I think that's the biggest thing.
There's more parity in the AL because you have the worst teams in the league boosting the records of the rest of there's more parity there because their differences, the record differences are so much wider. You have less parity in the NL because they have similar competition against each other. And that's why the playoff teams, we actually talked about this before we started recording, all of the 5 playoff teams were within 5 games of each other.
Fair enough. All right. Number 3, I'll go next here. I've got the Angels here at number 3. I think that they are a very complete team. I think you also can't discount the World Series champions still reigning until the end of it. And I think they showed what they can do against a good team in Texas in that game 163. And I think that they have a team and a pitching staff as well as a lineup that can match up against any team in the league.
100%.
That's fair. I don't really have any argument there. Although I will say I don't have them at number 3. I have Texas at number 3.
That's fair.
And honestly, I was waiting for the winner of this game to determine where I put Texas and LA. And so Texas gets number 3.
Fair.
That's a result.
And then before the game was over.
What's that?
I made my power rankings before the game was over.
Okay, congratulations. You just did it differently than me. So what? What's your point? I mean,
I'm saying,
am I supposed to be impressed?
My opinion would have been the same whether Los Angeles was in the wild card game.
Wow. I love this. I love this. I absolutely love this.
That's how you did your power rankings. I'm doing how I did mine.
Look, I did mine on the fly, and I'm not going to lie. After I picked whoever was 8, I actually wrote them all out so I could see what it looked like and made my selections.
Okay. But anyway, I do have Texas at number 3. I do think they are one of the top teams in the league. They're really good. I know we talked about their Brenden said their offense isn't really that inspiring, but when they get on, they manufacture those runs better than anyone in the league. And I think that combined with their pitching staff, they're better at manufacturing runs than teams with similar pitching staffs. And
I think I hate to jump in here, but Texas reminds me a lot of the in real life 2008 Tampa Bay Rays. Small ball, speedy, with a great pitching staff.
I mean, if you really want to talk about the small ball teams, you could talk about the Cardinals of the 80s.
I wasn't alive back then, all right?
Neither was I, but I still know about it. Whitey Herzog ball, baby.
Are you sure you weren't alive for that? The gray hairs say otherwise. Sorry, I had to defend my co-host a little bit.
You're just jealous.
I've got a great beard. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not jealous about anything.
My wife finds my gray hair sexy, so
hey,
that's all that matters.
That's what matters, all right. That's what matters, right? All right, who did JR have at 3?
He actually had this again. I think JR and Brenden were kind of the same mindset of trying to just throw all the curveballs at us. He has San Diego at number 3.
It's not bad.
Now, to be fair, I had San Diego at 4, so it's not crazy, but he
I was
does
gonna
have
say
San
I had
Diego
them.
number
I had
3.
them at 5. So
Yeah, that's his 3 team.
all right, number 2. Andrew, who you got at 2?
All right, I'm gonna do mine and JR's at the same time. We both have the LA Angels at number 2. Just kind of all the reasons you mentioned with listing them at number 3. Defending World Series champions, so they've been here. They know what to expect. They clutched out the game 163 to take out the Rangers to win the division and assure them a series where they can use their bullpen effectively. They can pick and choose how they want to use their starters, and their offense is going to lead the way there with how many people on their team had over 30 home runs? It was like 5 players had 30 or more home runs, I think, for the season. Or was I looking at a different team?
Let's find out here. Mike Trout, 35. Shohei Ohtani, 34. Mendoza, 31. Jung, 30. Ramos, 30.
Yep, 5 players. And then Marsh had 25.
Yep.
So they are a power hitting team. They smash the cover off the ball, and their pitching is not going to – I wouldn't say their pitching staff isn't going to lead them, but it's not going to be a detriment to them.
Unlike Boston and Washington, who have great offenses but really weak pitching staffs, they have a great offense and a pitching staff that's good enough not to sink them.
Now, the question is, because LA's offense kind of relies on that long ball, is that going to be enough to get them through the playoffs? And that's going to be the big question mark for them going to. I still have them ranked at number 2 because they still have that high-powered offense coupled with a decent pitching staff. But can the long ball carry them all the way? Because that's what they're going to need.
Fair enough. All right, Brenden, you're number 2.
Ditto to what Andrew's been saying. I have the Angels. I think that the Angels are an amazing team. I think that they have a really good team. And I think that it's hard to find teams that can match up against them consistently over the course of a 5 or 7 game series.
All right, my number 2.
Can we mute him now? I'm going to mute him post because I know what he's about to say, and I have no idea why he can make this argument. I'm going to listen to it, though.
I've got the Chicago Cubs at number 2.
Oh!
Here's my reason, and I'm going to be completely and brutally honest here. The NL Central is the toughest division in baseball. The fact that they were able to be the number 1 team out of that, Andrew, if you guys would have been the number 1 team out of the NL Central, you would have been the number 2 in the power rankings for me.
By 1 game.
I'll be straight up with you, all right? But my fact is, like you mentioned, they're the jack of all trades, master of none. And you know what? The fact of the matter is that I think they can ride that as far as possible. And I think the fact of the matter is Danny Smith Jr. and Kent Herbeck are a great 1-2 punch. They've got a good enough pitching staff to take you like we've talked about with LA. And I think they have everything they need. Plus, they're clicking on all cylinders right now. I think momentum does a big thing, and I think the Cubs have momentum right now.
Man, he's digging deep into the trope catalog there. We got clicking on all cylinders and momentum.
I will say their first round matchup against Washington, I think, plays into the Cubs' favor. Because the Cubs are definitely going to take advantage of that pitching staff. Not only is Washington a weak pitching staff, but they pretty much have, like, Cubs lineup. If you look at their lineup, it's literally all lefties except for Carson Kelly at catcher. And the Nationals don't really have a lot of high tier lefties that can handle that. So I think this plays into the Cubs' hands.
And I also think too, in something I looked at too, I think the Cubs as well, something that I see and that I think is very true for them, is that I think in this first round matchup, they can put up the most runs ever in a best of 5 series.
They have the offense. You think their offense can put up more runs than Boston, LA, and Washington?
Maybe not consistently over the course of a season, but over the course of a short series, absolutely.
In the course of a short series against the very, very bad Washington pitching staff, yes.
Okay, Washington pitching staff accounted for. Okay, that's fair. That is fair.
That's where that
because if Boston wins the wild card, they're going to have to go up against Baltimore's pitching staff, and that's not easy.
And that's a great segue into all of our number 1. The Baltimore Orioles. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to our last topic here. There isn't.
No, there really isn't.
All right, we're not even going to talk about him because we spend too much time on him. this podcast anyway.
He could just flash the jersey and just smile to the camera, smile and wave, boys. Just smile.
Yes,
and
exactly.
wave.
All right.
All I'm saying is that I don't play much offline out of the park. Like if I do, it's like as a commish sim, like where I just sim the league. This is my first taste of postseason baseball in any baseball video game. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Well, let's hope.
I feel really good about my team.
Let's hope you get more than just a little shot of it. All right, let's.
Agreed.
Which gakes us into our next segment.
Can I make one more point? Because
yes.
I kind of went along with you on like the Cubs hype, but I want to give you the detriment to the Cubs. What person in their starting rotation scares you? The answer is none. I'm not scared by any person in their starting rotation. Now, Kimbrel at the back end, that does scare me. So if the Cubs have a lead late, they can close the door with Bill Sullivan and Craig Kimbrel. But no one in their starting rotation is going to scare me.
Here's my thing, though. With that offense that they have, if your starter can give you 6 innings of 5-run baseball, that offense can
overcome 5-run lead every single game.
Yes.
I don't.
I think that.
I think you're looking at it. I think you're looking at it from St. Louis Cardinals glasses right now.
All right, yeah, I was about to say, if we're still talking about just the Washington series, yes, I will give you that. But throughout the course of the entire playoffs, you have them listed as number 2. I don't think that's true. They have a great matchup with Washington.
Andrew.
No, I'm still talking. Hey, let me finish talking. I'm going to make my point, then you can counter. The Washington is a great matchup for the Cubs. Their offense can flourish. Against other high-quality pitching teams, such as St. Louis, such as San Diego, they are not going to do as well. And their offense is not as good as Washington's or Boston's or LA's, and it's not going to carry them that far with the pitching staff that they have.
I completely disagree with you for the simple fact of the matter is I think momentum plays a huge factor into it when their bats get hot against Washington. And also the fact, what was your season record against the Cubs?
I actually don't know.
All right, I got out of the park open. Let's do this.
I do too, but I just don't know where to find that actually.
Team by team.
It's here somewhere.
The Cubs and the Cardinals. The Cubs went 11-8 versus the Cardinals this year. So where was your pitching staff? I mean, that's a 7-game series that the Cubs would win. That's a 7-game series that the Cubs would win.
That's not a matter of the pitching staff. That's a matter of lack of offense on the Cardinals side.
Okay, you still need, as I mentioned, you have to score more than 2 runs to win a baseball game, in my opinion.
My
opinion is.
Go ahead.
My opinion is that the fact of the matter is the Cubs are going to put up more runs. The Cubs are going to hit well, and they have enough pitching to get them to where they need to be. And the fact of the matter is the only matchup I see for them, and we'll talk about this when we get into who's going to win each one, is the only team that I think can beat them right now is the team I have ahead of them in the power.
You know what? The Cubs, to me, are a team that is going to enter every single series taking it to the wire. They're a team that is going to give up those 5 runs every game, and you're hoping that they can score more than them, which is going to be good for 2 of 4, and then you have to hope you win Game 5, and you're going to good for 3 of 3, and you're hoping they're going to have to win Game 7.
I
think they have the talent to do it once, maybe twice.
Yeah, going in the playoffs off of hope is not a recipe for success.
It's not. That's why I had him solo.
And I've made this point throughout this entire show today, is that pitching takes a team farther in playoffs than hitting does. And Cubs pitching is not going to carry them.
I disagree. I disagree.
Their hitting will carry them past Washington, but that's where it's going to end. They're going to lose in the NL Series.
The fact of the matter is there's some disagreement here.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun about this. That's what these are for.
Yep.
and that's fair. So let's talk about the playoffs. Who we predict for each series. Let's do the AL side, then the NL side, and then we'll do the series. All right.
Do we want to
Sound
go
good?
game by game, or have each of us give our full rundown first?
Now we'll go game by game or series by series.
Well,
Yeah.
we have to go game by game. We're talking about wild card, but
Wild
I
card. but
don't have JRs for these. He just sent me power rankings, so it'll just be the R3 prediction.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, let's start. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the AL wild card. Boston and Texas. Who do you guys have winning this? Brenden, start.
Texas.
Andrew,
Texas.
Aiden, Texas.
Now,
So we got a Texas
now-
clean sweep.
it may say that it's a Texas clean sweep, but that does not discredit Boston. I can see Boston winning this game, but
I can't. They don't have the pitching to win it.
I can see them winning this game. I just think that they're coming into the game at a disadvantage.
That's kind of my mindset.
I think a 3-game series would be interesting between these two teams, because I think Boston would stand a better chance in a 3-game series than Texas does in just one game.
I think the fact that this is a one-game playoff hurts Boston.
That's
All
fair.
right. Let's go ahead and talk about the first division, or let's talk about the other wild card matchup really quick. Diamondbacks versus Cardinals.
I mean, do I
Andrew,
even
we don't
say-
need your answer.
Yeah,
We
I'm
don't
going
need
with
your-
my Cardinals.
I'm going to shirk my power rankings a little bit, and I'm actually going to go with St. Louis.
You're scaring me, man.
And I'm going to stick with my power rankings in the fact that they're one spot above. I'm going St. Louis.
And that's going to be a good. Both wild card games are going to be really good games. I will say that.
I think the NL one's going to be better than the AL one.
I don't think either of them are going to be blowouts. I think we're going to see a game very similar to the game 163 between Texas and LA. I think
agree.
that's the kind of
And
quality.
actually,
games
we're going
gonna
to see almost perfect recreation of that game, with it being mostly a pitcher's duel. And that's not for Boston's pitching's sake, but for Texas.
I will say, Aaron.
That's
and then
Aaron
Texas.
I will say, Aaron hinted in the Discord that it may or may not be starting.
You
I mean,
got
I'm
cut.
not-
Did you say Trevor Bauer? Is that who you said?
Trevor Bauer may or may not be starting the All-Star game. I'm not sure if
All-Star
he did in the stream or the Discord
You said the All-Star game.
or the.
He wanted to go back a couple months.
Sorry, I was going back to when my GM was at the height of its glory when I scored 5 runs for the NL to get home field advantage because I
Off
decided
of Ethan Knight, by the way.
off of Ethan Knight and to score runs and steal bases. It felt like a.
The
Jesus,
highlight
sorry.
of the Braves season.
Honestly, we had a bad
Managing
season.
the All-Star
We had a
game.
bad season.
But
All right,
um,
let's go ahead and move into the first ALDS game. We'll go ahead with Baltimore and Texas for all of us, since that's what we all have predicted.
Who's going first?
I'll go
Well, I
first.
think
I'll go.
everyone in unison on 3. 1, 2, 3. Baltimore.
Baltimore.
There you go. How many games?
4.
Hey, Andrew and I are on the same page. I'm holding my fingers up. He
Yeah.
says 4.
I gotta say 4 as well. That's
I think Texas is a really good team. I just think that we match up well against Texas. I think that we're an amazing hitting team, which can counter their pitching, and I think that they just don't have the offense to counter our pitching.
I think Texas sneaks. Game 2 or 3, one of those two. I think probably more likely game 3, just because you have to go against Ethan Knight and Jim
Well,
and
I'm gonna say,
Upball Reed.
we're gonna rattle off Knight, Reed, Siebold, Lothar. By the way, Zach Lothar, who no one pays attention to. Zach Lothar, who this year pitched 162 innings and had a 3.17 ERA.
Fair.
I mean, look at his FIP though.
Yeah, that's true.
Over a point higher.
Fair.
4.2 is
It's still pretty
not
good.
terrible. He's still
it's not
average.
terrible. Yeah, it's not
He's
terrible. I'm
average.
just saying it's a full point higher than the ERA you just quoted.
I think they can get a win off
Rosters
Siebold
tend to have
personally.
lower FIPS than ERA, or higher FIPS than ERAs, because FIP is not a stat that rewards ground balls very much.
All right, let's go ahead and do the other one: Angels and Royals. I'm gonna say the team and the amount of games. Angels in 4.
Angels in 3.
Angels in 3, and I hate to do that to Minerva because I want them to
I-
win so bad.
I give Minerva 1 game. I think he can muster up some of this hype that he's running on and give himself at
I
least
think
a
he
game.
can muster up one of those things where he's like, I'm gonna have my starting pitcher come in and pinch hit, and he's gonna probably hit like a double or something.
He has
Because-
something.
I don't know what I think he's gonna have some other crazy management.
Oh,
get
yeah.
to if we get to do a live game for the division series, I obviously don't know if we're going to get to or not.
It's division series are going to be straight sims. They're going to
All
sim
right.
he's simming the entire division series in one day on Saturday, and the entire championship series on Sunday. So
Oh,
none
really?
of those games will be managed.
Oh,
All
well,
right.
will we get opportunities to like pick to like move starters up in the rotation?
I
Or
believe so. Yeah.
okay,
I believe
All
you can
right.
set your lineups, but no, you're not. It's going to even be a quick sim. It's not even going to be watch the
I
innings
was in
progress.
Disney during the last year's playoffs, and that's a separate trip from when I got to see you, Aiden. So I didn't really get to watch any of the postseason sims last year.
All right.
World
Fair. Let's
Series
move
will be
over
game
to
by game.
yeah. Let's move over to the NL side of things. NL, we've got in that first, we got San Diego and St. Louis. I think this one's a little more up in the air. Brennan, what you got?
I got St. Louis.
In?
How many games?
Oh, in 5. I think this is going to be back and forth.
St. Louis in 5.
I'm going to flip the other side. I'm going to take San Diego in 5.
Hey, at least it's a 5-game series across the board. That'll be fun to watch.
I think that's going to be the series of the DS of the division series.
The division series to watch.
Yeah, that's the division series to watch.
And it's all going to be setting up the championship series to watch.
Yes. All right, let's go ahead and move down to the other one. Nationals and Cubbies. Andrew, why don't you start us off?
As much as it pains me to pick my NL Central rivals, I'm going to go Cubs in 3. I'm going to say the Cubs get the sweep.
I'm going to say the same thing. I think Cubbies in 3.
I'm going to go ahead and go with what I was saying earlier about the Cubs team. It's going to be Cubs in 5, but it's going to be a convincing 5 because I think that their pitching staff will put them in holes in games, and their offense is not going to be able to win every single one of those. So I think Cubs in 5, but a convincing 5.
Fair enough. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the ALCS. We've got Baltimore versus the Angels.
That's going to be the series to watch.
That's the series to watch.
That's the series to watch right there.
I'm debating it in my head right now, actually. Brendan, I know you're going to pick the Orioles. Just how many games?
I'm going to pick the Orioles, and I'm going to say 6. I don't see a 7-game series out of this, but I also don't see it being a 4 or 5 game series. I think that we're gonna get multiple close games, but 6 feels about right for me.
I just because I want to see it, I'm gonna say Baltimore in 7. Just because I want to see a 7-game series between these two teams.
That's fair.
Brendan, I want to pick against you so bad, like so bad.
How do you pick against Baltimore right now?
I can't right now. I'm gonna say Baltimore in 7.
All I'm saying is that this on the topic of a lot of parity in the league right now, only one team was able to stick their head above everyone else this year.
The one thing I will say is I think it's going to come down to rotation management on teams, how you guys decide to run your starters for that series. So I'm going to say Baltimore.
Took the foot off the gas with Knight and Reed towards the end of the year for this reason.
I'm going to say Baltimore in 7. All right. The other one. You guys have Cardinals and Cubbies. I've got Padres Cubbies. I'll start with you two, and then we'll do me as the outcast. Brennan, start us off.
You know what? St. Louis.
Yes. How many games do you think?
For two reasons, and I'm going to give you the games in just 1 second. Mm-hmm. The whole reasoning behind what I see happening to the Cubs in the postseason is that they're going to get down and they're going to have to claw their way back with their offense. And I think that they have an offense to do that. I think it's going to be in 7 games. But I don't, unlike the previous series where they're facing a Washington team that has a terrible pitching staff, they're going to be facing a St. Louis team that has an amazing pitching staff that will keep games off the board, or will keep runs off the board. It'll be the games Chicago wins will be blowouts. The games that St. Louis wins, their pitching staff will shut down the offense.
Interesting. So you think my pitching staff will give up 3 blowouts and still win the series?
I think that Chicago's offense is good enough to where your top of the bullpen won't get much exposure in 3 games.
All right.
Andrew?
I mean, obviously I'm biased, but All right, I'll say this. My heart says Cardinals. The stats mind in me says Cubs. So I'm picking the Cardinals in 7.
Cubs in 6.
I mean, I knew
Over
you're still riding
over
the Cubs
San Diego.
train, so.
Oh, it's over San Diego, and you guys don't even have San Diego making it past it.
Exactly.
Well, let me ask you this: who do you think matches up better against Chicago, St. Louis or San Diego?
Oh, St. Louis.
I'm asking Aiden because he chose San Diego over the Cardinals in the prior round.
I think the Cubs would rather see St. Louis, but I think San Diego just comes out of it. That division series is going to be a coin flip game 5. And I think one thing that's going to hurt whatever team comes out of that is I think that pitching staffs are going to be a lot more tired than the Cubs pitching staff is, and a lot more strained than the Cubs is, because I think the Cubs are going to sweep in that series beforehand, that I think it's going to take its toll as it gets later in that series. That's why I think Cubs in 6. And I would say Cubs in 6 whether they were facing the Cardinals or the Padres, just simply because of pitcher fatigue.
That's fair. That's a fair argument.
I don't disagree with that.
All right. World Series time. We all have the Orioles. You two have the Cardinals. I have the Cubs.
You go first this time.
I'll go first this time because I want to see you two duke it out.
What's happening here is we've broken Aiden because he wants to argue against my team, but he knows in his heart he can't.
That's really where I'm at right now. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, it's
just take the position so we can argue.
Okay, I'll tell you this. I think I'm gonna say Baltimore in 7.
Over the Cubs.
Say Baltimore over the Cubs in 7. However, I think what it's going to come down to is can Baltimore's bullpen hold on? Because I think even though they've increased from 11, I think even though they've increased from 11 to 6, and Brenden, before you start getting all statistical on it, I think even though they've increased from 11 to 6, some of the names in that bullpen have been shaky in the past, and I don't know exactly what to expect from your bullpen when it comes to a big situation, that I think some of these bats in Chicago could take advantage of it. That's why I see it going a full 7 games, and honestly, I could see either team winning it. If you're getting 8 innings from Reed and Knight and Siebold and Lowther, it's going to be a tough day from the Cubs. But if the Cubs can find a way to jump on some of these guys early, especially some of your right-handed pitchers, it's going to be a tough day for your team and your bullpen.
What I'm really worried about is Siebold. Knight has a reputation of being able to shut everyone down. Lothar and Reed are lefties. Siebold is the worry. And I will say this for my bullpen. Jorge Soto is the answer.
But
Jorge Soto,
hold on. But Jorge Soto cannot pitch every single game.
Are you sure? Because he's a starter. He has been pitching almost every single bullpen game for us lately. But
here's my thing. He's gonna run out of gas at some point. He's gonna run out of gas at some point, and
he's got starter stamina, man. A day off pretty much resets him.
Let me add to Brendan's argument here, as I have 2 similar pitchers in my bullpen that were brought up as starters but are now relievers, in Thomas Sapuki and Johnny Lasagna. So kind of the same mold there. And let me look.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that Baltimore's bullpen has improved, but I'm saying I think that could be their weak point in this series. That the Baltimore bullpen, if the Cubs can get to some of these starters a little bit earlier, I don't have enough faith in your bullpen to be able to hold on in a late game situation right now. Please prove me wrong. Like, I obviously expect you to prove me wrong. But right now, until I see it, I can't say anything about it because I feel like your bullpen has been your weakest point all year long.
Well, let me show you some more numbers. Let me show I'm going to show him some more numbers that'll let him see it. So we were talking about the Cardinals and the Rangers being 2 of the best bullpens in baseball, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me just make this point. Cardinals have 3 or the four relievers that I mentioned at the top end of their bullpen all have over a 1 WAR for the season. All right, and 3 of them actually have 2.
No, hold on. Throw out WAR.
Why?
Nope. WAR is the most obsolete stat. Replacement is bullshit. You cannot tell me what a replacement is because based off literally the argument we've had on every single one of these episodes when you brought up WAR. The replacement is not something you can talk about because there are too many intangibles that go into a player's value that you can't use it to evaluate a player properly. You talk to me about their
I think people much more experienced than myself I think people much more experienced than myself or you value WAR as a stat and value the replacement.
And you know what? I'm gonna straight up tell you no because I'm working with a minor league baseball team right now who I talk to professional scouts, who I have to talk to them for my job, who I have to talk to managers and things like that. They don't give a crap about WAR because they realize there's way more that goes into the game of baseball than WAR.
Oh, agreed.
I'm not saying. You're saying all these guys have above a 1 WAR, but I don't think that's an accurate tool to use to evaluate players. I've never been a fan of WAR. I don't think it's a good stat. I think there are plenty of other stats. You can look at their ERA. You can look at their walk percentage, their strikeout percentage, their ground ball percentage, their hard hit rate percentage. You can look at what they're doing on the field, how many innings are they giving you, because that's an important tactic. You can look at their FIP is a great one. There are many other stats you can look at.
Here, I will tell you. Bullpen right now, the highest FIP on the Baltimore bullpen is a 3.50. That's the highest FIP in the bullpen.
That's great.
for the Orioles.
Great. And like I said,
I'm not done. For Texas, the highest FIP is a 4.29. They have 3 players over a 4 in FIP. 4.64 is the highest. For the Cardinals, the highest FIP is also a 4.64. They have 2 players that are over a 4 FIP.
Look,
So
I have not argued. Hold on,
average,
but you're taking my argument, and I said, look, I've given the Orioles the win in the series. All I'm saying is that of their team, the biggest question mark is their bullpen because of where they've been. I'm not saying that they're not going to win the World Series. I'm saying that that's what gives me the biggest question mark because of what the hitters that the Chicago Cubs bring to the table.
I understand that argument, and I agree with it. I think it's a good argument. I'm saying has been successful. Of all my bullpen arms, 1 was on the roster on opening day.
Correct.
This has been a complete bullpen shuffle, and it has worked.
Yeah, correct. And I'm not disagreeing with you on that. But what I am saying is I trust your offense. I trust your starting pitching. The only one semi-question mark in your team is the bullpen, and that's the only reason why I was giving the fact that this may go more than 5 or 6 games.
Okay. I don't disagree.
Let me just ask Brenden this. Of the players in your bullpen, how many of them would you not trust to handle the ball in a playoff series?
Crucial situation or less crucial situation?
Average situation.
All right, so how many guys would I have pause about putting in?
Yeah,
2.
Yeah, for me,
and keep in mind, I've Curtis Taylor and Wyatt Beddow are not going to be part of the playoff roster, so it's I only have 12 man.
Right, I'm talking about as a playoff roster, so I'm knocking out. Who am I knocking out? I'm probably knocking out Mark Jones for mine, and he was a starter. He was a starter most of the year anyway. So for me, I actually only trust the 4 at the back end of my rotation. That leaves 3 that I don't trust. So you could take that what you will as well. Like he trusts a majority of his bullpen on average on an average situation more than the people in my bullpen. I don't trust Doolittle, Jesus Jacques or Michael Sanborn to give me to keep me in ball games.
I think that in a 7-game series, Jorge Soto will probably pitch in 5 games.
Zapuki will probably do the same thing.
And that's fair. And I'm not taking that away from you. And honestly, Andrew, because of that bullpen, if it's an Orioles Cardinals, in my opinion, just because of your bullpen, even though I do consider it top tier, because of your offensive struggles, I say Baltimore in 5.
That's fair.
If that was the World Series we're looking at that you two have, I have Baltimore in 5.
Yeah, I don't deny it. In order for me to make these runs that Brenden and I are predicting, the offense has to show up better than it did during the regular season. No, let me rephrase. We know the offense is there. We saw the offense in the first 2 months of the season for the Cardinals. That's why they got off to one of the hottest starts in baseball, rivaled only by the Detroit Tigers at the time. If we can find that offense again that I know is there, which is why the season has been so frustrating for me because I know it's there, it just hasn't shown up. If that shows up in the playoffs, the Cardinals will make this run to the World Series. But as it stands right now with this prediction, I'm going to go ahead and give mine. I'm saying Baltimore in 6. I don't think my team, the way it stands right now, can match up with Baltimore through a 7-game series. I think and honestly, it'll still be a successful season for me because it'll be the farthest I've taken the team. I lost in the NLCS in 7 games to Washington my first season in eMLB 2.0. And to make the World Series would be a successful season. I do want to win it all. I'm gunning to win it all, but Baltimore just is that good.
Sorry, I know this is not eMLB related, but just a really cool something that just happened. The minor league baseball team I work for just threw its 3rd no-hitter in 9 months.
Gee whiz.
Oh, okay.
So I know it's not eMLB related, but it's still kind of cool. So
It's baseball related. We can talk about it.
you know, it was great. 6 no-hit. Our starter threw 6 no-hit innings, and then the other pitchers came in and finished it off against the Tampa Tarpons, featuring Braves eMLB first-round draft pick Jason.
Okay.
Sorry, just random factoid I'd throw in there. I'll relate it to eMLB in some way, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. All right, so now that our playoff predictions are done.
Brenden, you shared yours, right? You said
Baltimore. I said
Yes.
Baltimore in 6.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so now we're going to talk about some of the rule changes that are coming / we've got some breaking news of expansion coming in 2027. One of the teams we know is going to be in Montreal. And second team will be voted on within the league.
Options are not known yet.
Options are not known yet. To be determined at this time. I guess I'll start this off. I'm sort of 50-50 about this. I think it's gonna. I know Kamish says we have a high talent pool and everything like that, and yes, we do with the CCPs that have come into the league and everything like that. However, I think we're at the height of how competitive we are. I think we saw that based on how all these how tight all these playoff races were. And I'm afraid that if we expand too quickly, or expand even though it's only 2 teams, we're going to see more discrepancy, especially with the way the division realignment is going to go. Plus, the fact of the matter is that who knows what the playoffs are going to look like in that scenario. In my opinion, I just think that it's I don't know, and I'm scared to see what it would actually be. I think that the talent pool right now is at its peak, and I think yes, we're adding in more CCPs and also more players from these years and stuff like that. However, I think this is going to make it. I think right now our top and our bottom is close, like not necessarily close, but not miles and miles apart. Whereas when we add these 2 new teams, I think it's going to make the competition level, the top very good and the bottom very bad.
I think here's the thing. Kamish has obviously been thinking about this for a while, but when we were having our rule discussion talk today, I brought it up in the main chat. I think that the oversaturation of talent in this league is real. I think it's only going to continue to get worse. And I say worse, not as in it's a bad thing, because I think the oversaturation of talent really represents a lot of awesome growth for eMLB as a brand. The oversaturation is caused by people who don't have an official stake in the league coming and watching our streams and coming and making players and then boosting those players and being active and engaging in our community. And it's great for the community, but it represents a problem competitively for teams. Because right now, there are a lot of really good players who are stuck in AAA. I mean, every single trade block posting, Andrew's like, oh, 25-year-old in AAA who just needs a chance somewhere else. And here's the thing, there are no chances somewhere else because teams just don't have spots available.
I'd almost like to call this the Cody Koshin rule. Like, that's what it feels like to me.
Why?
Because I think
he's just taking pot shots at someone tonight. He just needed someone fun.
No, I needed someone to take a pot shot. But I think what it comes down to is I love the CCP aspect of it. Mind you, I have that doesn't change. I think all of us in here have at least one CCP. But in my opinion, I think that having players and people within our league with multiple CCPs is what is saturating the league over too much. That I think maybe instead of expansion, we need to look in limiting CCPs in a sense. I think
And you
that
know what?
there's
From a straight up competitive argument, I don't disagree with that. But I think the brand value that CCPs bring to eMLB for the Twitch streams is too good to discount it at all. I think that you can't.
and the only counterpoint I'll make to that is, while I agree, a lot of these people who are coming into the stream who are not GMs, mind you, there are a few rare exceptions. They drop their monthly sub. They may drop 500 bits here, a gift sub there, play mini games to get their boost. Most of the people who are dropping 10 gifted subs, 1,000 bits or whatever, multiple things like that, are GMs to boost their own players. And I think that at some point there needs to be that, but that's not exactly what we're talking about now. I just think with expansion, we're looking at I think that we're gonna see too much of a wide spectrum of talent that it's gonna make these races down to the wire less exciting. It's gonna take away from the content, in my opinion.
I think that there's enough talent around the league to go around. Andrew, you've been quiet.
Yeah, I'm trying to collect my thoughts because honestly, you can make an argument for both sides. I'm gonna lean more towards. Well, I'm all right. Let me just say this: I have points that'll support both sides. My opinion,
And you can be our middleman.
Yeah, I'll be the middleman here because I'll say I'm leaning more towards Brendan's side of it's good for the league, but I see where you're coming from, Aiden, from the other side, and especially when it comes to the GM CCPs. If I could go back in time, I would say that GMs shouldn't have been able to put in CCPs from the beginning. But that's just my opinion. But at the time that was happening, it made sense for the community because that was how the community grew, was starting with the CCPs from the GMs. Other people saw how the CCPs were doing, and people outside of the GM community were wanting to jump on board with that. It's only recently, like this past draft, that we saw the explosion of CCPs from outside of the GMs that we saw. So it made sense.
Has a direct link. It has a direct link to us gaining affiliate status.
Exactly. And the Twitch partnership status as well. And so at the time, it made sense. But right now, like to your point, Aiden, like so many, like you see the GMs are investing more into their CCPs than the casual fan. And that is why we talked earlier about putting in limits in terms of like contracts, also limits on how many players people can create, that kind of thing. So there are limits in place to try to counteract that. Also, in the same token, when we're talking about spreading out the talent around the league, community created players are probably going to be some of those players that are protected and not able to move over to those expansion teams. They're going to have to get those CCP players in later drafts as they come up. So spreading out the talent among the league might not happen at first because of that reason. But
I think that's where some of these other rule initiatives that were talked about, like one today that was mentioned, was a draft lottery. I think that will be a great idea if we bring in this expansion, because it means that these expansion teams, just because, let's be brutally honest, they're going to be bad to start. These expansion teams are not going to be good. This will avoid them getting just top pick after top pick, where it'll create more of a fun. Like I feel like.
But isn't that kind of like how expansion teams are supposed to grow?
It is, and here's the thing. But I think it's because they need to build a competitive roster,
right?
Otherwise, you just found.
But that's why we have. That's why we have
to hand wins to other squads.
But that's why we have free agency. That's why we have trading. That's why we have all these other aspects.
Trading only works if you have something to send back.
But I think these draft lottery, I think this is something that should be implemented, because not that anyone in our league tanks, but I think it's a great idea. The fact of the matter is I can't just bake on the fact that I get, I lose 100 games and I'm automatically going to get the number one pick.
Listen, I agree with you. I think a lottery is really great for the league. In real baseball, I don't think it makes much sense. In eMLB, it does, because we see
eMLB is more like the NFL draft, where you can go straight from the draft to the majors.
But okay, I'm going to make the point though that only happened this year. That was the first time that we had seen that happen.
It's a new problem.
Yeah, it's a new
problem.
It's
recent, yes. But we need to nip it in the bud while it still is a problem.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
Because if it's a problem now, why is it not going to be a problem 2 years down the road?
It would be a bigger problem 2 years down the road.
What's going to stop, let's say, Montreal from drafting the next Danny Smith Jr.?
And why would that be an issue?
I'm not saying it's an issue, but I'm saying why should, just because they're an expansion team, just because they were bad, like just because they didn't have necessarily the same resource, why should they get the number one overall?
Are you going to condemn whatever poor GM takes over the squad to just being terrible? I mean, I think they do deserve an ability to get a leg up.
Correct, but I don't think that's by consistently getting number one overall draft picks the next 5-6 seasons.
How else are they supposed to grow? They're not going to be a finance team that's going to be top of the league. They're going to be middle of the league at best. They're also not going to have the farm system at the beginning because they literally can't just take the top prospects.
We don't know what it's going to look like yet. I think the fact of the matter is really far into this as we should, but we don't know what this expansion is going to look like. We don't know how many players we're going to get to protect. We don't know how many prospects we're going to get to protect. We don't know any of this information yet.
I don't. Out of the park. At least out of the park doesn't have a function for you to be able to select players not on the 40-man, at least to my knowledge.
And I'm sure Kamish has his way of doing all this, and that's fair. The other thing I wanted to talk about is something you brought up, Andrew, of the wild card going to a 3-game series. I mean, as we mentioned, Brenden and I were the first two who were sort of for it. I think it's a great idea just because we talk about this team like Boston. We talk about some of these other teams. It gives more excitement and more fun to the series.
It gives the teams the main person that I was going back and forth with was the LA GM TF Salone. I think that's TF Salone in the Discord, and he was making he was making the point that you're trying, like, teams that make the playoffs should have the best chance no matter where they ended up in the playoffs. My argument for that is if you make it a 3-game playoff, you're doing that for the wildcard teams. You're giving them the best opportunity to show that they can move on to the next round with the 3-game series as opposed to a 1-game series.
I agree with that argument.
Yeah, and like another argument that came up was you would make the wildcard teams more tired for a division series. And my point was, like, if you're going in that wildcard series, you're going to put your best pitcher on the mound. I'm using pitching specifically as an example. You're going to put your best pitcher on the mound to win that one game because that's all that matters in that moment. And then if you win, you move on to the division series. That pitcher's probably not going to pitch again until game 3 of that series. And at that point, you could be 2 games down and trying to have to win 3 games in a row. And that puts you at a disadvantage.
Which then, if you use him in game 1, you can use him in game 1 DS.
Right. That's my point.
Don't you want the most competition? I know we're talking about different leagues here, but let's say, don't you want Mark Diggs going up against Ethan Knight in a game 1 of a DS?
Now, yeah, and my point was, if you start your ace in game 1 of a 3-game series, you would have him potentially ready for game 1. More than likely, it'll probably be game 2 that they're ready for.
Yeah,
but at the same time,
better than game 3.
What's that?
Better than game 3.
Exactly, because the first 2 games of a 5-game series are key. Now, we were talking about in the context of the league as it stands right now with the 10-team playoff format. The new wrinkle that's been added in now is the fact that we're expanding to 32 teams. And that's actually changed my argument a bit because and
more importantly, realigning.
And realigning as well, because he's talked about there's now going to be 2 divisions per league with 8 teams each. I think this is the perfect opportunity to do an expanded playoffs, which would also include a 3-game first round. It wouldn't even really be a wildcard round because you'll have a division team playing in those.
You know what I vote for?
No, you wouldn't. Unless you're keeping it at 5 teams.
Oh, that's right. Because we're going down to 2 divisions per. Never mind.
I want to talk about something crazy for a second. I want to do a March Madness style. You play 1 game till you get to the Elite 8.
All right, get out of here. Go away.
If we wanted to play amateur baseball, we'd watch the College World Series. This isn't amateur baseball. This isn't amateur baseball. This is professional baseball.
But hold on.
1-game playoffs are exciting.
Andrew,
1-game playoffs.
Hold on. Can I give my argument for a second? Can I give my argument?
We'll listen to what you have to say, but I wouldn't call it an argument.
Who do you think you are saying that I don't have an argument in this state? Listen to the freaking
I'm
fact.
saying, I don't think this is a good argument. I think you're saying stuff.
Will you let me freaking talk before you start jumping in on me here?
Have at it.
Thank you. Yes, this is a baseball league, a professional baseball league. But let's also look at the fact that we're here for content. This is a content league. This is a league that was made originally for not the 1.0, but the 2.0 when it started with Twitch was made for content. When we came over to Twitch and YouTube, it is for content purposes, correct? We don't make any real money off this. Kamish does. And I think personally that if you reseeded the teams 1 through 32, you did a one game for the first 2 rounds, and then once you get to 8, you can move back to the normal playoff scenario with how many games, 3, 5, and 7, or whatever you want to do. I think that would be some really cool content because we could see a team like the Baltimore Orioles go up against the Oakland Athletics, and maybe the Oakland Athletics can pull something off. It would create fun, interactive content that a lot of people can get behind. A lot of people can get and say, oh, look at this Cinderella team. And a lot of people can go, hey, look at this. This is a fun new way to do baseball. But guess what? We're never going to see this in real life. So why not bring it to a video game that means nothing monetarily or anything like that to us as GMs?
I think that there are more important things. There are more other important things besides money that motivate people. And I think once you get the A's beating the Orioles, or you get the Marlins beating the Cardinals in a 1-game playoff, and then the teams who actually had to fight the entire season lose out for the postseason. Once you get that, you're going to piss a lot of people off. That's what I think. And frankly, if you're going to do that, that's fine. Don't play 162 games. The 162 game season is meaningless if you're going to have 1-game eliminations.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to say that it
sounds like crap. If you can be crap for 162 games, but if you're good for 1 and you get to move on, that doesn't seem right. It seems hypothetical to the sport.
You have a 1-game wild card. Then why are so many people okay with keeping the 1-game wild card?
None of us are. The 1-game wild card is dumb. Really,
the 11 people in the Discord right now is tied 11 to 11.
A 3-game series is a fix to the current problem. It should be 4 teams.
No, it should not.
Absolutely, it should. This is baseball. It's a 162 game season.
Right,
duke it out during the season.
No. You're telling me the guys who didn't get to play each other outside of 6 games of the season shouldn't get a chance to play each other. The fact of the matter is you're looking at teams that multiple times have had over 90 wins, where even a 90-win team misses the playoffs and they played well, and they've won games against these other teams or split games with these other teams. The fact of the matter is that 2 teams is good. In fact, I'd even go as far to say is give me 3 teams in the wild card because I think they deserve it at times.
That's what real baseball's done. I think the current format is best set up for 4 teams. This current alignment in the MLB was designed for 4 teams.
According to who? Because it's obviously designed for 5 and now 6. Well, because it works with 5 and 6.
Now you have a division team playing a 3-game wildcard series against a wildcard team. That doesn't make any sense to me. You won your division. You deserve that break. Or if you're going to have the wildcard teams. Frankly, it should just be...
You know what? No, you won your division. You know what? You weren't good enough to be the number 1 team. Play better.
Still won your division.
So what? Winning your division doesn't mean...
Absolutely means something.
No, it does not. What does winning your division mean?
It means you're in the playoffs.
Great, you get your automatic bid to the playoffs. Why should you automatically get some rest time just because you won your division? Because
the sport is designed around division play. If you're going to argue that maybe we shouldn't have divisions, that's one thing. But we have divisions. It's built around division play.
I'm not arguing that it's built on division play, but I'm also saying...
We've Andrew here, haven't we?
All right.
I'm sorry.
I'm in the middle. Once again, I'm in the middle of this argument. I think the 4-team playoff is not enough because, as you mentioned, you will leave teams that are 90-plus wins out of the playoffs that deserve to at least have a chance. But to the other argument of letting everyone in, do you really think we're going to have exciting baseball when teams that are around the 500 mark are playing in the playoffs? I mean, look at what happened with the NFL playoffs that expanded this last year. You got some horrible games from teams like the Eagles. That's not playoff games. We want playoff baseball. Yes, we want the best teams, and we want the top third of the league to essentially have the opportunity to win the World Series.
Look, I was just throwing something out there that I think would be fun from a content perspective. Do I think it is
all right, let me counter that argument then, because I did have a point to that, but I just haven't had a chance to bring it up yet. You're gonna hate me for this. You sound like Rob Manfred, worried more about making money than worried about making the league competitive.
I don't think that it takes any competitiveness out of the league.
Yes, it does, because it makes the regular season
It makes
pointless.
162 games meaningless.
Because
then why don't we shorten the regular season?
It would still be pointless.
Look,
You're just talking about a tournament.
Look, why don't we throw a tournament onto this then? I understand what we're talking about.
It would be fun for like.
Can I finish talking my freaking sentence, Brennan? Before you start jumping in like you do every freaking time. I don't know what's funny to you about this. I legitimately
go on.
I think a tournament would be fun. I think we have the Winter League, which is fun as well. But I think what the matter is that great. I'm wrong about the playoff situation when I think it should be a tournament. Great. But I think the fact of the matter is that yes, we are a fun league, and yes, money, whatever. But at the same time, we're here to make content and have fun with it. And I think a tournament style, seeing the Marlins beat the Cardinals, would be fun for people.
It would be fun for a game. It wouldn't be fun for the full playoffs.
Great, then let's do another tournament style. And you literally just
another. What do you mean by another?
The playoffs are a tournament. The playoffs in their current format are a tournament. Yeah. It's a playoff tournament. It's in a bracket form. It is a tournament. So I'm saying another tournament, whether it's at the beginning of the season, the end of the season, or play spring training, something like that. Let's have a one-game fun thing where we can have some content out of it, where it doesn't matter what happens, because guess what? That is fun for a lot of people, and that would be fun for content-wise. I'm just throwing an idea out there.
So is the World Series more about making the best content or seeing the best team win the championship?
I think that it depends on what situation. I think when we're talking about real-life baseball, it's seeing the best team win the tournament. It's seeing the best team win. In this, I think it's a combination of both.
Well, you can't. Okay, I think that
this method would lose a lot of people more than it would gain them.
I agree.
No, I'm saying that I'm agreeing with you that the fact that it can't be used as our playoff format. But I'm saying it would be fun to see, whether it's something at the beginning of the season, something like that, just to throw this out there, that it would be a fun, cool way to see something different that isn't seen every day.
You mean like
it's a little too extreme,
like for King Cash or something?
That's kind of what Winter League is already.
Exactly, but maybe turn Winter League, instead of having it be a complete league, turn it into, you play within your division for seeding, and then you go and do seeding in a tournament.
Like do a round robin style kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, for Winter League, that sounds fine, because because Winter League is not designed to be a full season type of thing. It's designed to give prospects a chance to further develop. It's designed to see if, like, for me, I use it as like a tryout for like the regular season, like what players in my minor league system might be ready to hit the majors. But it's not, and that's why you can make it that type of content, because it's not designed to be the main reason for this is not to be competitive. It's designed for development. It's designed for giving people a chance to show what they can do at the majors. Major League Baseball, whether you're looking at real life or if you're looking at eMLB, that is the top league, and it's supposed to be competitive at its core. The team that wins at the end should be the team that played the best baseball, not the team that overcame.
But it isn't.
A Cinderella
but it never
story.
is. But it never is.
What do you mean it never is?
Because here's my thing, and this can get into a whole nother argument, that I think at the end of the day, we're all talking that Baltimore should win the World Series, right? They were the best team in this regular season, correct?
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is if they face a hot team, if something can happen in here, a freak injury, the best team may not win it.
And that's the content you're looking for. Not Oakland beating Baltimore, but two really good competitive teams playing it out and seeing which team can come out on top. We're not, like, when you're looking for content, the lower level talent teams are not going to bring that content.
With American sports, you try to balance that, get the best team the championship versus that potential for upsets and chaos.
Minus college basketball.
What? I think I think this comes from a
Oh,
guy
no,
who
great chaos.
I think this comes from a guy who is in college right now, who literally I work in college sports and everything is chaos in college sports. So I
Exactly.
think that's where a lot of my ideas come from.
And
And
that's fair,
and
and that works for
and
the
I will
college
sit
system
and,
when you
and
have
that's why
so
I'm
many
sitting here
teams.
and that's why I'm sitting here and admitting, great, I made a mistake and I was wrong about saying it should be used in the playoffs. However, I still think there is a place for it in eMLB that we can use it somewhere
Yeah,
that I think
like
would
Winter
be a
League.
lot of fun to create the content.
Yeah, like Winter League. I think like changing
Exactly.
up the style of how Winter League is run might be beneficial, and I think that's a place for it. But like,
Yeah.
and why the college one works, like when you have like the both College World Series with baseball, with you have like all the regionals leading up to the College World Series, or you have the college basketball tournament with 68 teams trying to get all the way to the end. That works for them because they have to figure out a way to incorporate hundreds upon hundreds of schools to give them a chance to make it. Whereas with professional sports, you have 30, 28, 32 teams that you're already playing a full season amongst each other to figure out who's the best and who should have a chance to play for the championship. That's the big difference.
I think this also brings up the question: should we shorten 160 games? That
I think
In
no.
MLB,
I think that instead of talking about shortening the league, and I've also brought this up in the rules, I think we should take the model that the MLB is going to be changing its season schedule to next season to have less games against your interdivision opponents and play every single team at least once throughout the year. I think
I
that's
agree.
a better way of determining your schedule because if you look at it now, like my team, I don't. Brenden, did I play you guys at all this season?
we did not.
Yeah, I wouldn't even play him until the World Series. So how can you say that like the teams that made the playoffs is a fair representation of the best in baseball if some of the teams don't even play each other?
And expanding to 32 teams and going 2 divisions of 8 makes it possible. And I'll tell you why it's possible now. If you go to the Out of the Park forums, there is only one schedule available on there. That is the current league format, 3 divisions of 5, where every team plays every team. And it's not a very and it's a decent schedule, but all the game times are set at the exact same time. They're all set to start at 7:05 Eastern time. So someone in here would have to go manually in there and reset all the game times and move matchups around, and it would be a big pain in the butt for Kamish. There are, however, several 32 team, 2 divisions of 8 options available where everyone can play everyone else. We will be able to do that once we go to the new format where everyone does get to play everyone.
Yeah, and I think, I'm of the opinion. I was going to make this point earlier. Since we are going to expand to 32 teams, let's not worry about the playoffs as they are right now, because once we get to the 32 teams, I think that would be the time for changing the playoff structure. And I'm of the opinion is we should add in. We should make it like the current structure where we have 12 teams, where we have a wild card round between 4 teams that aren't the division winners, and those go on to play the division winners and go on to the LCS.
I think that's what makes sense. I agree.
I like
So
it.
you have 32 teams, and you'll have 12 teams make the playoffs, which is about a third of the league.
I think there is also some argument for more than that. I think that there will be some talks of more than 12 teams. I think there will be talks of 14 and 16 teams as well. I don't think
Yeah.
we'll go above 16, but there's going
I
to be
don't-
talks of it. And I'm okay with
When
16.
you're talking
Personally,
about
I'm
half
okay
the
with
league,
16.
when you're talking about half the league making the playoffs, that means you're going to have teams potentially right at or below 500, and I don't think that makes for compelling playoff baseball. That's just my opinion. Like I don't like how many teams make the playoffs for the NBA, especially with their expanded play-in tournament, which is I think is a complete joke.
It works for the NBA because the NBA basketball does a better job at producing the best team as a winner than baseball does. The NBA can do that for content because right now the Warriors and Celtics are 2 of the best teams in the NBA. Everyone can agree with that. You're not going to run the risk of the 8 seed making the finals almost every year. If it happens, it's completely unheard of. It's almost a non-considerable thing.
But isn't that the same thing with the wild card in Major
No,
League
because
Baseball?
baseball is way more chaotic than basketball is. Like on a who's going to win a game basis. You will have more upsets. You will have more chaos in baseball than you will in basketball.
I think 10 to
Yeah,
12
exactly.
teams is the perfect number for baseball. I don't think any more or any less. I know you mentioned 8 teams being what it is best for the 30 team, but I think that leaves out just like a couple teams. Like to the point I made in the Discord is if you cut off the bottom 2 wildcard teams, you'll have Arizona and Boston out, who both had better records than 2 of the division winners. Don't they deserve a chance?
I absolutely do, and that's why I personally pound the table against the 3 divisions of 5 format. Because the 3 divisions of 5...
That's how else can you divide 30 teams, though, honestly?
By going to 32.
Yeah. There's no other way to evenly distribute the divisions.
That's what I'm saying. There's no better way to do it other than expanding.
Yeah.
I think personally that I look at it too right now, and I think that we're going to see 14 when it comes to the expansion. I think 14 is the perfect number for 32, in my opinion. Personally, because I like to see a few more teams make the playoffs. I think that it excites me. I think the fact that I have a little more chance to get in as a GM who's working my butt off, even though I had a bad season, I think that's exciting. But I think what the fact of the matter is that whatever this league votes on, it'll be exciting.
I
now,
agree.
I know we kind of got off topic real quick. I do want to point out, I do want to ask you guys, each of you guys, we'll try and give different cities, top 3 cities that you'd like to see the expand to. Obviously, we know Montreal's going to be one. But if you all want to give I'll go first. I'll take only one that I mentioned and then let you guys have the other ones. But I'm going to go Nashville is one of them. I'm going to go somewhere in the Carolinas, whether that's, Raleigh or whether that's, somewhere like Myrtle Beach or something of that nature. Somewhere in the Carolinas, I think deserves one. And then I'll go ahead and go with my last one. I'll go with Buffalo, New York as my other one as well. Because I think we saw what they did with the Toronto Blue Jays quite well up there.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of snow at the beginning of the season for them, though.
True. I'm just throwing out some ideas here.
Get the dome. Get the dome.
It's a dome.
I think that Charlotte is a much better option in the Carolinas. Charlotte's about twice the size of Raleigh metro area, so Vancouver would be really interesting. You need a Northwest city, and Portland gets talked about a lot, but Vancouver's another potential option. And then Vegas.
I'll choose Portland for one of mine because I know you mentioned Vancouver. I'll say Portland is one. In terms of Vegas, I would say that Oakland should move to Vegas before we put an expansion team there. That's my opinion. I'm trying to think of cities that you guys haven't mentioned yet.
Move the A's to Sacramento and let Vegas have an expansion team.
I don't want it. You can move a team out of California. They have too many already. Like I was gonna say Charlotte. I have a bias to Charlotte. I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. My dad grew up outside Charlotte, so I have a bias towards that. I would like Nashville just to see another team in Tennessee, or the Hampton Roads area of Virginia, like Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, that area.
I think another one we mentioned is maybe something in the North, Midwest, East sort of area, in something like Iowa in the Field of Dreams area out there. Something.
It's just hard when they're all spread and the population's all spread out.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem with one of those sites. Even though it would be cool to sort of give that in between team, because there's sort of not a team in that. I almost call it a horseshoe or a crescent. Sort of, there's not really much of baseball out there, so that might be a good start. They've got the Cedar Rapids. They got a team in Cedar Rapids out there. I know for sure, a minor league team at least.
Why not Omaha? I mean, they already host
Omaha, Nebraska,
or maybe Oklahoma City.
Why not Williamsport? Why not Williamsport, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, because you already have 2 Pennsylvania teams.
Why not Cooperstown, New York?
Because you already have a bunch of New York teams. I'm of the opinion that teams should be more spread out to represent more areas of the country, including Canada.
I'll give
I
one
like
that
the
we haven't.
Vancouver idea too.
I'll give one that we haven't mentioned: Indianapolis, Indiana.
I wouldn't mind.
Indianapolis is kind of sandwiched in between a lot of other teams, though.
Yeah, it's like in between
all
the Ohio teams and the Chicago teams.
But I think Indianapolis, they have they have a football and a basketball team. They have very good attendance with both of those.
Well, all right,
they can support a baseball team.
I'll give one that might be a little bit better than Indiana, kind of in the same area. Louisville, Kentucky.
I wouldn't hate that. Home of Louisville Slugger. That's not terrible.
Yeah, I mean they've already got the Louisville Bats.
They may not be able to do Louisville. Maybe we're looking Washington or something like that, but Kentucky is not a bad spot for it.
I mean, when you think of Louisville, Kentucky, the first thing you think of are like manufacturing baseball bats.
The only thing I'll say is it's too close to Cincinnati.
It's kind of has
it is.
It's literally
literally
you can see Louisville. You can see Louisville. You can see Louisville from Cincinnati,
which means that they're not very far from another population of fans. You could get,
but a lot of the people in Louisville are Cincinnati Reds fans.
That's fair.
So
yeah, aren't the Bats like an affiliate of the Reds? I think.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. The Louisville Bats are that would be
a big reason why.
That would be a problem. I think potentially as well if we want to talk a little more or the West Coast a little bit. You mentioned Omaha, Nebraska, or Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I also think you could look at something like potentially. Wow, I just had it.
Salt Lake City.
Another. I was thinking Salt Lake City. Yes, I thank you for reminding me. Something out there. They have the Utah Jazz who do well out there. Put them out there. Why not?
I mean, it's a small city, but they're geographically isolated enough where they could pull fans from a pretty wide area.
Yeah, unless you have a team that does move to Vegas, then you have competing in that region.
Exactly.
But so it's a possibility in
Vegas.
It's a possibility.
Market.
I think there's a lot of cool different places where you can put a team, and it'll be interesting to see what choices are given to us.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say.
Now, I think all these different teams have cool names that you could put with them. I think we were talking about Nashville being the Stars would be cool.
Historical context there.
Montreal has to be the Expos. If it's not, I riot.
That's already confirmed.
It's already confirmed. It will be. Expos are back.
Exactly.
Yep,
if not, we were gonna have a riot. That would have been bad. I think you put a team in like I think if you put a team in like Iowa, you can call them the Dreamers, going off Field of Dreams, something cool like that. You put a team in Louisville, you almost steal the Bats name. I feel like would be the only acceptable thing to do in that situation. I feel like if you put a team maybe in Indianapolis, you could almost play off the race car vibe of the Indy 500. You put a team in Oklahoma or Nebraska. I think the Nebraska Tornadoes or something like that.
I mean, they're the Omaha
Storm Chasers.
Storm Chasers, yeah.
There's a lot of good minor league teams that have teams in these cities that we've mentioned that already have good names, and you kind of want to think that you could take that AAA team or AA team and turn them into a major league team with that same branding, and it would work. Because even Virginia Beach area, you have the Norfolk Tides, which work really well. Charlotte, you have the Charlotte Knights. That's a really good sounding team.
If you go out to Myrtle Beach, you got the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. If you go in Raleigh, I'm pretty sure there's a team in Raleigh as well, a minor league team in Raleigh, or an indie ball team. I know there's something there.
I think it's the Oaks.
Is it the Oaks?
Raleigh? Yeah, because
Pirate was going Raleigh Oaks a lot in the stream. So
yeah, I think the Raleigh Oaks would be a cool one. I mean, if we go to Vegas, they have I think it's the Las Vegas 51s, or there used to be a team called the Vegas 51. Or is it the Aviators now?
I think I don't remember.
Yeah, Cedar Rapids is the Kernels, as in the corn kernels, because the cornfields of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
they're a Twins. They're a Twins affiliate, and working with them, that's where our guys go once they get done in Fort Myers. They head to
Wichita's the wind surge, so watch out.
I
mean, we could just go crazy and just do the Hartford Yard Goats.
I'm not against it. I'm not against it.
But
or not the Hartford Yard Goats. I know it's a different sport. Bring back the Hartford Whalers.
Yeah, the hockey team.
Bring them into eMLB. Why not?
I don't hate the idea.
I love how we're like, yeah.
I mean, I can't find anything wrong with it, other than maybe the location.
I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a fun thing to see. Buffalo have the Bison up there.
I mean, you already have the Bills. That's kind of already a Bison.
Stay on brand.
Stay on brand.
Fair. All right.
I think if you go to Vancouver, what would you put in Vancouver? Would you just call them the Canadians?
So this is going to show my inner geek. There's a Overwatch League team there called the Vancouver Titans, which is pretty cool. They still have the blue and green color scheme like the
Canucks.
Yeah, like the Canucks.
I'm down with that.
Well, we've been recording now. I just looked. We've been recording
Yeah, we're pushing 2 hours 15 minutes at this point.
Yeah, I'm starting to tap out a little bit.
Yeah, great. So sorry for that prolonged end discussion, everyone. We'd like to thank Andrew for coming on and playing a great editor so far for our podcast. We greatly appreciate everything you do and
Yeah,
for finding our Charaba.
I've listed when you cursed earlier.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little
Oh, he
upset.
did? I didn't even notice it.
Yeah,
I said an sh, and I think I might have dropped an f bomb when you interrupted
no.
me.
I would have heard the f bomb. It was just the sh.
Oh, it was just the. Sorry, I forget what's considered family friendly and not. Sometimes it's a weird line that I'm trying to follow here.
I think it's more along the lines of it's funny to block your mouth with a Chara bunny.
Just every time I'm talking about the Cubs.
Just find some situations and just start blocking it, making it look like he started.
I almost did it when he was calling me the what was it?
Biggest
again?
pretender.
Biggest pretender. I almost was just like,
you should have
experiencing technical difficulties and just clip that segment out.
That would have been funny. No, but we greatly appreciate everything you do. I think this is where we're going to end it for Brenden, for Andrew, for myself, Aiden Pearson, for JR, who wasn't able to join us today but sent us his power rankings, for Commission, everyone involved in the stream. We usually end it by telling everyone to, like and subscribe and everything like that, but I'm going to end it a little differently. Hug your loved ones. Hug the ones you love. Call someone and tell them you love them today. You never know when's going to be that last day that you can do so do it while you can. If you need help, there are ways that you can reach out to. Please do so. And that's what we're going to end it on. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on Here's Why You're Wrong.